Summer Lazenby, all the way from
Hello.
Alaska. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. We've done a lot of bantering back and forth over the number of years on the internet, so
Indeed.
it's good to put your face back to the internet warrior stuff.
Sure. Keyboard warrior. What
you
can
and
I
I
do?
though, yeah, we always seem to have a way of having our discussions in a PM instead of putting it out there. Quite honestly, you're one of the few people that I actually even go back and like if I see you comment on something, I'll look at it. But for the most part, I don't look at what people say. I post
I
and
appreciate
ghost.
that.
I post and ghost for the most part.
I always enjoy what you have to say. We don't always agree, but I always respect. It's always well thought.
And that's exactly it. We don't agree, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't have to agree with everybody.
I love diversity of thought.
Certainly, and through different points of view, we grow, we learn.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it's all about in life. Is being able to see the world through somebody else's eyes. Take a step in their shoes, or at least try to.
For sure.
I think we miss out on that so much anymore that we just get so wound up and upset with our own little, our little bubble.
Our goggles.
It's like if you're not in there, if you're not in there, then fuck you,
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
So what's been going on? What have you been up to? Freezing to death?
Damn near. It's definitely the doldrums of winter in Alaska. You need the trade out. You get the Alaskan summer, but
Mosquitoes.
you have to put up with the Alaskan winter. It's not for everybody.
No, it's not.
Fine.
That takes a hardy soul.
I mean, Wyoming. There's a Wyoming-Alaska pipeline. There's a lot of.
It's been rough here lately. We've had the wind.
Oh,
I shouldn't say that too loud.
Yeah,
Today was
I remember the
calm.
wind.
It calmed down yesterday, but I mean, we were having like 90 to 100 mile an hour gusts.
Yeah.
I mean,
I remember the wind. I remember open campus lunch being like the tiny little 90-pound seventh grader where I'd have to walk at like a 45-degree angle.
Yeah. And then have some jackass whizzing ice balls at you.
Yeah.
God.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was always fun. I don't miss those days. They were good times though. I think you were in band, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Okay. I thought so. I was thinking about that earlier. I was thinking about
Played the clarinet.
That's okay. I was gonna say I thought you played clarinet.
Were you saxophone or percussion?
I was saxophone, and then we didn't have a tuba player, and so excuse me. So they put me on the tuba.
Oh, there you go.
And then I
just remember
Mr.
Omar.
Oh yeah. Oh boy, he was a treat.
Yeah.
I remember I quit because all I wanted to do was jazz band.
Sure.
And they said, no, you have to be in marching band. And I remember being out there on the football field, freezing ass cold, with that stupid tuba and the cummerbund and those nasty ass uniforms. And some jackass in the stands threw a tennis ball and it went in the bell of my tuba. And I was like, that's it. I'm done.
I mean, you got to commend the aim.
Yeah, but I already hated that. I hated that marching band anyways. It was the worst.
I didn't want to even be in band, but my parents said you will be in band. So then being the stubborn person I am, I wanted to play drums. And they're like, you're not playing drums. How about saxophone? And I was like, I'm not playing saxophone because that's what you want. So I went with clarinet.
Should have grabbed the French horn.
Yeah,
That's a tough instrument. Do you still do anything with music?
The only thing I did with music was when my daughter hit middle school, and I became my mother and was like, "You're going to take band."
Did you deal with the whole the recorder thing?
Oh God!
Remember the recorders?
Parental torture.
God, yeah, listening to hot cross buns.
Important skill set to have as an adult, as opposed to like how to pay your taxes or
right,
or how to budget shop.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Yeah, that hot cross buns, if I'm ever lost in the Alaskan wilderness, is going to get me through.
It'd be a good way to call in a wolf. Or
for
a
sure.
Bear. Well, I guess at least in the wintertime, the bears are hibernating.
Usually, yep.
Hypothetically.
They pop out every now and then still.
Yeah, they do here too.
Yep.
There was a wolf, it was a couple winters ago, just I live up just right by Red Lake. And I took the
uh-huh.
dog out there. And, I mean, literally not a half mile from the house. And I'm out there throwing the Frisbee on a winter day. I see these paw prints in the snow. And I'm like,
It's a big ass paw
that's
print.
a big dog. I look up on the side of the hill and there's a big old mangy wolf by himself. And he's just sitting there looking at my puppy. I had a yellow lab puppy. And Goose is looking up at him like, get in the truck, man. He'd been ostracized from the pack. But to be that close to town is, I mean,
So my nearest encounter with a wolf was my ex-husband and I were on a canoe, like a 3-day canoe trip.
Yeah.
And this wolf just came trucking out of so it was early in the season. So it was actually kind of a crazy story because I also thought I was going to get eaten by a bear on this same trip.
Nice. Dual encounters.
So, yeah. So the river that we were in, it was really low volume of water because of the spring melt hadn't really kicked in yet.
Right.
And so there were literally, like, I'm trying to get both my hands, like 6-foot walls of the river channel. So we were in the river and there was no getting out of it. And so we're paddling along and all of a sudden this wolf just comes trucking out of the woods and like literally like at a stop when it runs into us. And I'm not a quiet woman. And so I like screech. The wolf is like, takes off in the opposite direction. We're like,
you scared him off, huh?
Well, yeah.
Well,
we now know about 10 minutes later, we figured out why it was running because we're just floating along. And as I had stated, the volume of the water had been pretty low. So there had been several times where it was where it was like we did the whole 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, thing to keep the floating. And so we're floating along and I hear a roar. And I don't know if I lost you. I'm going to keep talking, assuming I didn't. I hear a roar and I'm like, what the hell was that? And he's like, you see the bear? And I said, no, I do not see the bear. And sure enough, we pull over and there's this bear and we're watching her. And all of a sudden we realize she's in the river on a moose kill. And then she's got 3 cubs. So it's like the trifecta of really shitty. I can't hear you anymore, by the way. And so we sit there and we're like, okay. And long story short, we fire the gun. She runs away with her babies. But at one point, she stood up on her hind feet. And I'm in the front of the canoe. And I'm like, today's the day I die. I'm going to get eaten by a bear. So that was my closest bear encounter. Can't hear you. You disappeared for a second and then you came back. Let's see here. Do you want me to log in and log back out? Okay. I can't hear you. Okay, I'll come back. 1 second. You did? Nope, can't hear you.
Oh, now.
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right, I think we're back then.
Okay.
I think we're all right. Good grief. I don't know what happened there. It's that stupid refrigerator. I got my little fridge in here, and it every time it kicks off, it like for some reason it
Oh,
trips the camera. It's like a little power surge or something.
sure. That makes sense.
Anyway.
Sort of.
Okay, we're back.
At least you've noticed consistently what it does. But anyway.
I typically try to unplug it before I start this stuff, and then I always forget.
Sure.
And then I'll hear this water. I'll hear water dripping, and I realize, oh shit, the freezer's
because unplugging
thawing out. I've got a puddle.
That's not a normal.
This is all just thrown together. Everything here, I mean, I took my living room and made it into a studio. So.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's what I say.
Hey, COVID did weird things to people.
Yeah, I mean, I created a TikTok account. That's how weird it got at my house.
Yeah, I got on there. I don't know if I created. I've never put anything on there. I didn't even know what it was. I was like curious one day and got on there.
Oh,
I was like, it was kind of entertaining.
Well, solo. With
Yeah,
no
it was
human
entertaining
contact
for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I watch some of them on YouTube. That's pretty much all I watch is YouTube, though.
Sure.
I got rid of the TV, and I don't know. I don't like TV. The whole concept of you have to sit there and have commercials, and it's also it's just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, I haven't seen commercials for a while. I just
Yeah.
use like Hulu and Netflix, and that's about the extent of my TV consumption.
Yeah, I pretty much all my news comes off of YouTube. I don't watch I don't watch mainstream media. You really can't. I mean, it's so terrible. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on either. It's bad.
Sure. Yeah,
I mean,
but the only time I like mainstream media is like live-ish events, like the sad story coming out of Kentucky with the tornado where.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, that kind of stuff where there's video footage, but it's pretty awful.
I need to check on my cousin. I talked to my buddy Big Dan, who lives out there, and his daughter lived in Mayfield, where that.
Oh, geez.
And she managed to just escape it, and him and his wife, they fared okay. They were all right, but I haven't checked on my cousin, and I need to do that. See how he's doing. You remember? Patrick. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because they live in Louisville, or outside
Yeah,
Louisville.
I was in Louisville, and I went and had lunch with him like 5 years ago.
Really? That's good.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to go out there and go to the festival that he has a lot to do with, the Moonshiners Ball. But it always fell at the same time as Cali Roots, which was a reggae festival up in Northern California that I'd go to every year. And
you'll have to come up and come to Salmon Talk.
What's that?
You'll have to come up and come to Salmon Fest. Actually, now it's called Salmon Fest.
That sounds fun. I love
blast.
salmon too.
It's a 3-day music festival. It's the largest music festival in the state of Alaska. And, 10,000 people isn't a huge deal anywhere else, but here
in Alaska it is. Is Alaska still more sparsely populated than Wyoming?
It's slightly, yes. We're the second least populated state.
Okay, because I think Wyoming's around 600,000 now.
Ooh. Well, I think we're at about 700,000. But
yeah,
you guys, Wyoming has grown.
Well, but you think about the landmass though of Alaska. Alaska's 3 times the size of Texas.
So yeah, you can put. I think the ratio of people to land, you can put one person on the equivalent of a Manhattan Island for our population.
Right.
One person per Manhattan Island acreage for the state of Alaska.
That's why people get a little nutty up there sometimes.
People come to hide out.
Well, and people get buggy up there too.
Yes, they do.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's a lot of time in solitude, and I mean, if you don't, say you don't have a family or whatever. I think I would venture to guess that I know that there's a high suicide rate up there, and alcoholism,
domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse. We top them all, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, hey, my dog's making an appearance.
Oh yeah. Hey, pup.
He's honey.
If I had a treat, I'd give you one.
Yeah, dog 1 of 2. This is the good one.
Is that a female?
Black lab.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She looks like is that a female?
It's a boy. Yeah,
he's got that gray stuff like I have.
Yeah,
If I grow my shit out, I look like that.
I know. Me too. If I don't dye my hair, but yeah. He's getting old.
Yeah, I didn't have any gray hair till I went to prison, and then all of a sudden I had it. I was like, oh shit, now I know what stress is.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be.
It's like shit. What happened to me?
I would imagine that would put a few gray hairs.
Yeah, so it goes. So what have you been up to? You
Not
started a new job, what, a year or two ago? Was it a couple years ago?
About 6 months ago, actually.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, well, and a year or two ago would be accurate as well.
Okay.
So had I was the executive director of the tourism board for the Kenai Peninsula.
That's what I thought you had something to do with the tourism.
I was there for a couple years, and then we lost our funding, which meant I lost my job, which such is life, and lived off savings for a while. And then it was kind of funny. I had this friend, I had to find a job, and
jobs suck.
Yeah, he's like, you should apply for my mom's job. She's retiring. And I was like, what? And I was like, well, what job is it? And I never in my wildest dreams thought I would have this job. So it was the general manager of a seafood company / processing facility. And I was like,
oh, wow.
Okay. And so I interviewed, I got offered the position. So I was like, well, I'll take it. I fucking love this job.
Really?
Don't mind
you can say whatever you want. It's not, yeah.
I sometimes use the F word like a comma. So,
please,
anyway,
hey.
So
it's a sign of intelligence.
Yes, I agree. And so I ended up the general manager of this processing facility, which I still kind of crack up about it, but I absolutely love the job. Like I had,
cool.
In the winter it was like 15 people, and in the summer we had a team of 50. And it was young people, and it was just really, problem solving and all this fun, crazy stuff. But then it sold, and I did not like the way it was with the new owner. It was not a pleasant experience. So I accepted the position I'm at now, which is the communication manager for the Kenai River Sport Fishing Association. So if you're a fisher person, the Kenai River is like Valhalla of salmon fishing.
Yeah, that's Mecca.
Yeah. So
that's combat fishing up there, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
When the season starts, elbow to elbow, just
More so on the Russian River, which feeds into the Kenai, but it can get pretty crazy. So we're a advocacy / conservation organization.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because my job at the processing facility directly played into me getting my current position. So.
Huh. So
life takes weird turns.
You just do communications.
Yeah. So I run their social media and any printed materials that go out of the building. If we have various campaigns like, don't catch king salmon because they're not as plentiful. Let's put the big, huge fish back in the water. I write a lot of that, and then it gets super vetted. So, I can't speak for the organization on a public platform, even though I write a lot of the materials.
Sure.
It goes up through the chain, so to speak.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went up to Kenai one time. I think it was, I said 1997. My buddy got married up there.
Oh, I just missed. I moved here in 98.
Okay. Yeah, I was in Juneau at the time, and I flew up there. And we went and played golf in Kenai.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I remember it was very expensive, and we didn't have enough golf balls. We were hitting them in the woods and stuff, and flopping and flailing around. And there was one hole, like I think it was on the back nine, that had like a pond.
I think so. I've only golfed.
I could see thousands of golf balls in there. Right.
Yeah.
And we were like out of golf balls, and I'm like, we're not driving the cart back to the clubhouse. I'm going in. So, I hike my pants. Of course, I'm out there. I've been living in Alaska all summer. I'm out there in my camouflage pants, and I take my shoes and socks off and hike my pants up over my knees and go in there, and I'm just reaching in and just chucking golf balls out,
Hell yeah.
And my buddy's picking them up, and this maintenance guy comes driving up, and he's just looking at me, shaking his head, and I'm like, oh, God. And I look at him, and he goes, hey, dumbass, that pond's full of leeches. And he hits the gas and he drives off, and I'm like, oh, shit.
You're about to reenact.
I get out and I'm covered like from my knees down in leeches, the good old Alaskan leeches, and I'm sitting there with my socks. I've got, they're starting to sink their little little teeth in.
Leeches.
Oh God, yeah. You wouldn't think about leeches being in Alaska, but yeah, they are.
Yeah.
There's lots of them.
Yep.
But I did feel like a dumbass too. And the guy he just took off. He's
probably seen it before. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he had. He was probably, that's why he was just shaking his head. He's going, God, here we go again. Another dummy.
For sure. It happens.
And my grandparents owned a golf course in Juneau, so.
Oh. I have spent 10 hours in Juneau.
10 hours?
10 hours, yeah. A couple years ago, I decided to take my son on a surprise adventure to Seattle. And
oh, cool.
Yeah, so I used air miles. It was a screaming deal. But no matter what I did, I'd have to route through Juneau, which you never route through Juneau, flying home to Anchorage. And it, no matter what flight I picked, it required a Juneau layover. So I said, fuck it. And I picked the longest possible layover so that I was like, okay, at least it'll give us time to do stuff. And he was 8. He thought it was super badass.
Yeah.
We flew to Seattle. We hung out in Seattle. And then we flew somewhere else and did some shit. And then flew home. So, but yeah, we did. I took him into, what is it called? Is it the Red Onion? Which is like.
There's the Red Dog Saloon.
The Red Dog Saloon, and like it's like tits and ass kind of.
Yeah. Right downtown.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so we waited in line. A cruise ship was in port. We waited in line, and we go in, and the guy's that's got the swinging doors of the saloon.
Yep.
And he's like, just the two of you? And he gives me this look. I'm like, yeah, the two of us.
He's like, do you know what you're doing?
And so the doors swing open, and it's just this extremely busty woman in this corset. And I was like,
yeah, you never know what you're going to get in there.
For hours, I don't give a shit. Women have tits. Cool, let's eat. And like, shit. He was like, whatever. He's 8. He was just like, whatever.
Yeah,
I kind of laughed. I'm getting all these looks. I'm like, whatever. Judge away. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's Juneau.
Yep.
I used to hang out at the hangar there a lot, and then, oh God, there was one place up the street, because I lived out by the airport, which, as you know, having spent time there, you're like, you're 10 miles out of town.
Out of town, sure.
And yeah, I went down and I tried to remember the name of the bar I went into, but I was the only white person in the place. It was a native bar.
Native population, sure.
And yeah, boy, but I wasn't bad. I don't care. I'll go into anywhere. It doesn't matter to me. I'll go and sit down.
For sure.
I caught a lot of goofy comments and shit like that, but hey, that's to be expected.
Yeah,
you're
for
white
sure.
and you go walking into a native bar. It's like, hey, it's like going into Pavilion, Wyoming, outside of Riverton. They got a bar there, and they lock you in.
Oh wow!
They, like, knock on the door, and a big native dude answers it. And, like slides the box back and looks, and then lets you in, and kind of looks at you weird, and then you go in, and you go in, and the dude shuts the door behind you and slams, locks it shut, and you're like, uh-oh.
Okay.
You're looking around and like, well, hey, how we doing?
Hey, how's he?
Rounds for the bar.
Yep.
We'll be everybody's best friend today.
Yep, that's okay.
Oh, it's always fun. I don't know. I've spent a lot of time on different reservations and stuff over the years, and it's all good. I don't care. I'll go anywhere. It doesn't bother me.
Fun fact: Alaska is like the one state that doesn't have reservations. There's like the Metlakatla reservation. I think that's how you say it. Down near, it's in southeast, but it's a full-fledged reservation.
It's like,
but yeah,
that's like Wrangell, isn't it? Wrangell, Angoon.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I lived in Seattle for like 6 years, and they had all the casinos out there.
We don't have casinos. Yep.
I'm not a gambler, but yeah, there was the Muckleshoot, and I don't remember the other one. I would go in there with my friends every once in a while, and they'd want me to go. I'm not a gambler. I'm not a card player. And I'd be like, no, I'm gonna go get a steak, and I'm just gonna sit back and relax. You guys go lose all your money, And inevitably, one of my buddies would be like, well, I'll float you $50. Just come sit at the table. And I'd go in and just go on tilt. You know, just piss
I don't even know
everybody
what
off at the table. Well, just betting reckless. Just, I mean, I'd
Okay.
either bluff everybody or I'd sit there and fold, and then I'd just put all of it in, you know, and then if I'd win and come up, and I would just cash out and leave, and they'd get so mad, you know. And it was like, well, big deal.
I got sent to Vegas for work like 3 years ago because there's no gambling in the state of Alaska, and I got sent, and I was like $20 on a slot machine, and when it was gone, and I was totally okay with that. But I was just like, I don't get sitting at this. Ka-ching, ka-ching.
No, yeah, it's crazy. You know, I went to school in Reno for a year, and
oh wow.
You know, we were making fake IDs out of the dorm.
Of course, yeah.
And they were easy to make back then. You throw them in the little dorm room fridge or the freezer, freeze them.
Oh.
You just peel them apart with a razor blade, and we got real good with the X-Acto knives. You just moved the numbers around, put them back together, wet towel, little contact cement and iron, boom, you're good to go.
I never had a fake ID. I never had a fake ID. But
God, I had a million of them.
I mean, there's no way I could have even gotten away with a fake ID. I looked like I was 12 until I was like 25.
I remember buying beer here at 16 years old, hanging out in the dollar when I was in high school, and
no, my ex-husband is funny. He when we were married, he joked because he was like, God, he was 4 years older than me, and he's like, God, I feel like a child molester sometimes when I'm out with you, and I was like, oh, stop, because I didn't like have the wherewithal of realizing how young I looked when I was 19. And when my daughter graduated high school few years ago, I was going through, you know, the photos and shit to send to her graduation stuff. And so I busted out those photos when she was a baby. And I was like, sweet Jesus, you did look like a child molester. I legitimately look like a child. And I was like,
that's crazy.
Oh, I see why you were worried now.
Well, and then you were telling me some stuff the other day about all that. I don't
want to go ahead. I'm an open book. You can ask whatever.
No, I was just, you know, what you told me, and then, you know, throw the whole child molester thing in there, and then all that. It's like, oh, you know.
Yeah, I've had
there was an interesting dynamic there, I guess, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've had a, you know, definitely an interesting relationship history.
Well, we all have.
Yeah. Well, there's a running joke in Alaska goes, the odds are good, but the goods are odd.
I could think of a similar saying that, you know, I tell somebody I know they're going into prison, but it's like, hey, bud, there's pussy in there, but it smells like shit.
That's not what you're used to.
Oh, yeah. I probably shouldn't have said that, but you know.
No, hey, you know, it's
got to keep it real.
That's for sure.
Keeping it real goes wrong.
Well,
I was watching that on Chappelle's show last night, and I was watching some old reruns of Chappelle.
Oh, you know, I never watched too much of him, but yeah, I've heard some.
Well, he's been like, you know, cancel culture is all over him right now.
For sure.
And
I gotta appreciate what he did. He got some honor at his high school, and he straight up said, all right, you guys who are pissed off about what I said, put your money where your mouth is. If you donate to the school, and like by April 1st or something, he said, he's like, if there's more donations that are pro naming the theater after me versus the anti, don't name it. He's like, I'll turn down. He's like, if the anti people put their money where their mouth is, I'll turn down them having the theater named after me. I was like, well, you know, I'll give him credit for that.
He's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. I mean, he's up there with George Carlin. You know, I mean, he's up there.
Oh God, could you imagine if George Carlin was still alive today?
Oh God, he would be going absolutely bonkers. He's still going bonkers. I mean, it's funny because I go back and I revisit his stuff all the time. It'll pop up on my feed and I watch it, and you know, his bits about religion and politics, and I mean, the guy was just, I mean,
way ahead of his time.
Yes, certainly he was a treasure. You know, I mean, absolutely. And there's, you know, I don't know. I guess it's, you know, you see these people that get shut down in comedy, and comedy is supposed to be, you're supposed to blur the lines in comedy.
That
You're
is the point of comedy.
Sure. It's like Hunter S. Thompson said, you can't know the edge unless you've gone over it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I feel like comedy, that's where it should be to be good comedy. I mean, it's gotta be right there on that edge where, where people just, some people you see and they go, I laugh my ass off about all of it because I'm kind of irreverent like that. I don't really care. I mean, it's Jim Jeffries is one that, he cracks me up.
I don't know if I've seen him.
He does a sketch about what would happen if God showed up at a party.
I'll have to check it out.
Oh, yeah, you should. I'll send you the link for it.
Okay.
It is one of the funniest sketches I've ever seen.
I got into Bert Kreischer a little bit, and he has
the machine.
The machine.
I am the machine.
Apparently, they're making a movie about that skit. I can't wait.
The crazy thing is the reason that he came up on that because it was actually true. So he put that out there.
Yeah.
Then the fact that he took his shirt off because he was always sweating, so he was like, "Fuck it, I'm taking my shirt off."
Yep.
He's got that dad body going on.
Oh yeah.
And then he tells that thing, and then it was one of the teachers got online after that came out and went viral, and she came out and said, "No, this is absolutely true. This did happen." So she
verified.
She gave it credit, yeah. And I mean, from there on, I mean, he was struggling. He was about ready to get out of comedy.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. He
was thinking, I'm going to have to go get a fucking day job.
Yeah.
I mean, he kept getting gigs at big theaters, and then he's not selling tickets. No one's showing up. And he's like, "Fuck, I'm gonna have to, shit."
Right.
Isn't it funny how in life sometimes you just do the craziest shit that nobody understands? Like take your shirt off and go tell a story about your seventh summer in college where you hung out with the Russian mafia and.
Yeah.
And then it gets validated and boom.
And then it gets validated for sure. Yeah.
I mean, he blew up. He had his own reality show.
Well, he had the show The Cabin, which I cracked up. My daughter, she's mom. You got to watch this. And there's how old is your son? He's a teenager, yeah?
13. Just 13. About to be 14 next month.
There's a shift when your child becomes a full-fledged adult and they recognize that they I saw her as an adult when she hit, 18, but it took her a little bit longer for her to be like, oh, mom's kind of cool. And mom's still mom, but mom's also fun to hang out with.
But I've realized some things about mom that I didn't know before.
Mom has lived a life and, mom can understand some shit because she's done it. And, and it's not, it switches to this not weird stage, at least as the mom for me. And so it was hilarious because she texted me. She's like, "Mom, you got to watch Bert Kreischer, The Cabin." I was like, "Okay." And the first episode was okay. And then there's the other episode where they're doing enemas, and he is naked on his hands and knees, ass in the air, and I'm like, "That is a secure fucking man." I was like, "Hell to the yeah!" Damn near died.
Oh, I love that part of the machine where he's he's like. Where he takes that veer off and he goes, "Now don't cheat on my wife," and he explains that whole thing, and then, leading to, but I never had the conversation with myself about robbing a train. And
when you're hanging out with the Russian mafia, you just go with the flow at that point.
That's fine. I used to hang out with some of those guys in Seattle. I had a buddy, Sergey, and he was wild. He had defected. I mean, in the wintertime, his story was just bizarre. He ended up in Canada, and all he wanted to do was come to the United States. And he told me the story when I met him, He had a real thick Russian, So, Mike, I tried to come to the United States. They did not let me cross the border. So I go to Capitol with gun, pointed at my chest and telling him I kill myself if I can't go to America. Somehow he ended up coming over, and I don't know how I ended up meeting the guy, but we turned into really good friends, and we would always go on a camping trip, me and my buddies, every year in Washington. We'd go up to the mountains, and this one year we were having such a good time. It was Sunday night, and we were all like, we're not going back. We're all calling into work tomorrow.
Sure.
Well, we're up there. We don't have any phone service, so we have to drive down to Ellensburg, Washington, and And we get down there, and Sergey doesn't have a phone, right? So I call my boss. I make up some lie about, the brakes went out, tire flat, whatever the hell it is. Sergey, can I borrow your phone, Mike? Okay, sure. Get him the phone. He dials the number up. Yeah, hello, boss. This is Sergey. I'll not be to work tomorrow, so thank you and fuck you. And he hangs up. And he hands me my phone back, and I'm looking at him like, dude, what kind of job do you have?
Yeah.
And so we hung out that weekend. I got I get back, and he's like, come by pizza place. He's like working at this pizza place, and I go, and there's a sign for a pizza place, and on the side of the building, there's nothing but like Mercedes and Range Rovers. There's not a light on anywhere in the place. There's no open sign. It's a dirt parking lot. And I go walking in, and guy accosts me. He's like, yes. I'm just looking for Sergey, his buddy Mike. Hang on, and Sergey comes out. He's like, oh, he's okay, and go in the back, and he hands me this briefcase, right? And I'm like, what's this? And he goes, oh, this is a job for you to do. And I'm like, no, dude, no. Nope. And he opens it up, and what they had done was they made up these fake like debit cards. They were just all white. They had they had the magnetic strip on the back, and each one had with Sharpie on the front had a PIN number. He's like, you take these, then you go to ATM all over the Puget Sound. Because you max out the card, you take as much cash as you can from each one, you bring all the cash back, and you get to keep 10%. I said, no. Negative, Red Leader. Not happening, dude. You go out there. These guys are all they got like it's like your classic pizza place. They got the booths, the circular, and they're all sitting there, cigarette smoke. They're all just drinking vodka, and I was like, okay.
When I moved to Alaska, so I grew up a military kid. My dad was the Navy recruiter. That's what took us to Wyoming. So when I moved to Alaska when I was 21, I was raised with knowledge of the Cold War and like Russians were bad, and so.
And then you're close there.
Well, there's a huge Russian population. Did your fridge kick on again? Because you just
it's just that camera. It has a weird thing where it shuts off every 40 minutes or whatever.
Couple seconds. Okay. Yeah. So there's huge. There's several Russian villages on the Kenai Peninsula that basically only speak Russian. And but I remember walking into Kmart and I heard Russian being spoken, and my inexperienced 21-year-old ass was like, why are there commies in Kmart? I was like, what the hell? And I was like pushing my cart, and I'm like trying not to stare, but I'm like, because I'm the newbie in town and nobody's fazed by the Russian communist conversation that apparently is occurring in my mind. And this is pre-internet. So once I could go home and Google, like, why are there Russians in Alaska?
Yeah, you got to go get out like Encyclopedia Britannica from the local library.
Yeah, I had to go rifle through the card catalog. And then I came to learn that it's actually the last religious settlement. It's Russian Orthodox.
Right, I was going to say Russian Orthodox.
They came over in the 50s and 60s to avoid persecution. And so it's the last religious freedom settlement in the United States, or the most recent, so to speak. So I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool.
Do you remember the movie called The Russians Are Coming?
Vaguely.
It was an old movie, and it was these Russians, like their submarine, like wrecked or whatever, and they had to get off. So they go into this small town, and they're trying to like assimilate, and there's like one of them that speaks a little bit of English, and he tells them all, he's like, telling them basically, if anybody comes up to you or whatever, just say, emergency, everyone to get from street, and they're wandering around this little town. And it was just classic. This was during probably the McCarthy era, during McCarthyism. It had to have been from the 50s. And I think that's when I think that's when that went on, because McCarthy had his list of everybody in Hollywood that was a communist.
Yep.
And
Yeah, pre-Red Dawn.
A total propagandist movie. Red Dawn, yeah.
Well, yeah, Red Dawn original. That's
with Swayze.
Yep.
That'll get you fired up. Get you a little that nationalist, little patriotism going for it.
gonna have to watch that later tonight or tomorrow.
Didn't that take place? I thought that didn't the second one come out? Didn't that take place in Wyoming?
I think it does.
I think it did too.
I think so.
I mean, I could just see that happen. I mean, where I go every day. I mean, I'm the Red Lake. I go way out beyond Red Lake. I mean, I go out almost to Meeteetse sometimes. Mm-hmm. I've kind of taken up fossil hunting and dinosaur bones. And it's pretty cool. And it just happened because I just happened to have an accident on the bike one day. Not an accident like in my pants, but I went off something I shouldn't have gone off of, and I ended up upside down with the bike on top of me, laying there by myself and trying to pull myself up. And I reached into the dirt and I looked in my hand and I had a handful of devil's toenails and the fossilized squid, and I'm just looking.
That's badass.
I'm looking each way, and all I can see, I realize that I'm in a bed of I'm like in this ravine that's just full of fossils everywhere. And I keep going out there every day and find new stuff. And I mean, I don't know, it's fascinating. The landscape tells a story.
For sure.
And it's definitely different than I think what science would lead you to believe. I think that there was certainly a cataclysmic event that happened a lot more recently than we think. It's because, I mean, how in the world I'm finding like big chunks of bone and all these. Why are they up on top of the dirt? I mean, like the devil's toenail is supposedly a 200 million year old species of oyster.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so to find they're all on top of the ground, and same with the squid and the bones and stuff that I found.
Like Wyoming geography and geology.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff out here. And this used to be like a rainforest out here in Wyoming, I mean, so it's, I don't know. There's definitely a lot more to it than I think any of us know, and a lot more to it than science would like to think that they know. And I always get a kick out of that when people want to argue the whole evolution versus creationism. It's like, really? Do you know? I mean, were you here? I mean, I mean, they get into talking billions of years, and it's like, really? How did your monkey brain figure out that something happened 200 billion years ago? I mean, who can wrap their mind around 200? How do you even come to that conclusion? It's
like the crazy thing that I think about, it's a guess. It is a guess. The thing, though, that like fascinates me is like when you look at the night sky, you're actually looking at history, because lights so far, or the stars are so far away. Some of those may not exist.
Yeah,
so when you think about the flip side, where you look at, like, let's say one of those stars way out in the ethers is, if you were on one of those looking back at us, they would be looking at, the shit that they would be seeing would be our history. And when you're talking about, 200 million light years away, well, 200 million light years means the dinosaurs are just, the light rays that had the dinosaurs, that's what they're seeing, not what is current.
Exactly.
Which fascinates me, wrapping my head around that. I definitely know the Earth is a lot older than 6,000 years.
Oh, sure. Yeah. For sure.
That out completely.
For sure. And I think that it's been on like a rinse and repeat I've read a lot of Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson. I got into those guys, and their thought on everything is that about 12,500 years ago there was a cataclysmic event, and that aligns with like Plato's descriptions of Atlantis, and their thought is that there was a very sophisticated society, a very sophisticated civilization, and it was wiped out. And I mean, you think about it. I mean, can you imagine what would happen? I mean, I always use this example to people. It's like, can you imagine if there was an EMP that got set off and we all lost our Wi-Fi, our cell phones? Like, if we were to lose, these little gadgets, right? Who can make one of these? Who can make one of these? I can't. Nope.
Yeah, I can't make one. I can't. Yeah.
You have people sitting in a sweatshop in China And it's so bad for them that they want to jump out the windows, and then they jump out the window, they hit a net, and they get bounced right back up in the seat.
Yep.
Go make more iPads.
Yeah.
But each person is just doing a little bit of like micro soldering. Yep. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to find anybody that could
even an Apple engineer that can put this thing together, start to finish.
Yeah, there's no way. Think about all that goes into this thing. You remember we were kids. I remember saying, "Oh yeah, there's going to be a day's going to come where we're going to have a little device where we can look at each other, and we can talk to each other, and it's going to show up like what we're doing right now." I mean, could you imagine this when we were in like second grade?
No. So it is very much like Back to the Future, though. This is the closest thing of all the shit that was in Back to the Future is this right here. We don't have flying cars. We don't really have hoverboards.
Yet.
We don't have self-lacing sneakers. But we got this.
Right. Yeah. And this is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you're in fucking Anchorage, Alaska, for fuck's sake. I'm in Cody, Wyoming. Here we are.
Well, I told my son.
That?
Netflix used to be a system where that you would order up DVDs and they'd send you 3 DVDs, and that blew his mind. He was like, "No." I was like, "Dude, we didn't stream shit on the internet." Like,
did you tell him about VCRs after that?
Yeah, I was like, "You better not leave the VCR tape in your car because it melts and it's going to be $100 to replace."
Oh yeah. And then or you'd have to remember you'd have to rent the VCRs.
Yeah, and the Be Kind Rewind, you'd get a fine.
Yeah,
if you didn't
Be Kind Rewind. There was that video store Stex IGA.
Yep.
And I remember when we got a VCR, and my dad spent like over $500 on that thing. And I mean, he brought that thing in the house, and it was just like,
yeah. Well, and then my dad got 2 VCRs, and we would pirate the videos from.
We were recording stuff left. I mean, it was ridiculous, and I mean, and then the thing would wear out, and you'd have to do all sorts of certain little tricks with it, like it'd start shaking. You have to hit rewind for like 5 seconds, and then hit play, and then hit fast forward and pause, and then it would,
Yep.
And I mean, you talk. Yeah, I mean, I told my kid about a VCR, and he looks at me and goes, "What's a VCR?"
Yeah. Well, I remember Mr. Riley. I was in journalism in high school. And he was my favorite teacher. He was the best. And we're in journalism, right? And he's talking about, he's like, "You guys, I got us a grant, and we're going to get a camera that records the picture right on a DVD, a CD." Yeah. He said CD. He's like, "It's a $10,000 camera, and we can take like 5 pictures right onto this disc."
Yeah, I remember that too. They had the laser disc. I remember Dan White. We had he had a laser disc player in biology class, and that was just like, whoa. The thing's the size of a record,
Yep. Well, and
that's just like, whoa.
These phones take pictures better than actual real life.
Yeah. No, they're 4K. I mean, mine's got 256 gigs on it. I mean.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Well, there's more power in one of these phones than they use to land people on the moon.
Right. Yeah.
More computing power.
Yeah, the moon landing. That's an interesting one. That's we probably shouldn't even go down that rabbit hole.
Do you question the validity of landing on the moon?
It's one of those things where I wasn't there, so I can't personally verify any of it.
Sure.
But
okay.
To find out that NASA has somehow lost all the footage and everything from it, and then you hear the guy that was actually left in the ship, and he had to go around the dark side, and the fact that we've never seen the dark side of the moon. We don't know what's.
Technically, it's not a dark side. It's just we haven't seen it. The sun hits
it's dark to us.
Yeah, it's dark to us.
Yeah, we haven't seen it, which is kind of crazy.
Like the Transformers, maybe the Transformers.
I don't know. And then the fact that we haven't been back.
People didn't care. People stopped caring.
Right.
So.
It was a whole race, and then the fact that we brought all the German scientists from the Third Reich after.
We did all sorts of shady shit after World War II.
We brought those Nazi fucking scientists in here because we had to beat the Russians.
Yeah, America's ethics are very. I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but you know.
Well, yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say. We
suspect at best.
Suspect. Thank you. That's the best.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Yeah, suspect. There's another word I'm thinking of right now, and it'll come to me later on tonight. I guarantee it. But
sure.
We definitely lack a lot of ethics and morals when it comes to
the self-awareness of America
as
a whole is pretty lacking.
Pretty shady.
Yeah.
Pretty shady. Yeah. I mean,
well, it's like we're talking about the tornadoes. I was reading a story earlier today about I think it's 6 people who died in the Amazon warehouse. They were told to stay, and they're not allowed to have their phones. And like a wife put up the last communication she had with her spouse, and he was like, actually, I'm not allowed to leave. And he was killed in the tornado. And it's just like, I'm sorry.
There comes a time when you have to say, bye.
And I struggle too, because like living in Alaska, I spend a lot of money on Amazon. I do.
Sure.
It's just,
well, same here because, well, Cody's the same way. You remember growing up here, like we had little mom and pop shops where you could get, specialized items. Now they've shut everything. We have Walmart. Yeah. That's it.
We have a Walmart. Yep.
And you have, and sadly to say, this last year I traded out and went with Walmart Plus instead of Amazon Prime, just because the Walmart is here. And I hate Walmart.
I hate Walmart.
It's the only place you can go.
But sometimes, we have a place called Fred Meyer, which is like
I know Fred Meyer. I miss Fred Meyer. God,
yeah. So
I love Fred
Meyer.
Good. Fred Meyer good. Walmart bad.
Yes, but there's a few things that like Walmart carries that Fred Meyer doesn't, and it's like, God damn it, I gotta go to Walmart. And
when I lived in Juneau, Fred Meyer was it.
Yeah.
There was a Fred Meyer out in the valley. I remember one night I'd gone up there, and this was back when you bought CDs, which kids don't even know about.
Right.
And I went up there, and I don't remember what I think I got a Snot and a Metallica CD or something like that. And I had this Discman that I'd carry in my backpack, and it had it would memorize the music 30 seconds in advance so it wouldn't skip.
Skip the answer.
I was cool. I thought I was cool. And it's night, and I'm riding my bike down the bike path out there in the valley in Juneau, and all of a sudden this porcupine comes out, and just out of reaction, I hit the front brake, and I went right over the front of that thing and fucked myself all up. I broke the handlebars off and then I remember laying there, and I watched the porcupine just I had to lift that thing back, and Fred Meyer.
Metallica continues to rock on in your ear.
Yeah, it's funny because I was actually listening to a Metallica playlist today when I was out on my dirt bike.
Hell yeah!
I was like, I don't know. I hadn't listened to him in a long time.
I downloaded the Justice for All album a couple weeks ago.
That's a great album.
That's probably in my if I were to be on a desert island and I had 5 albums.
If you had a choice.
That one makes it. That one's in the cut.
It'll keep you going. I remember Grosskopf and I used to listen to that on cassette tape in his little Fiero, and he and I were so big for that car. I remember when he got that thing high centered one day on a snowdrift, and we got out and him and I picked it up off the snowdrift. What are we riding around in this thing for? A bunch of goofballs.
Cruising Maine, because that's all there was to do.
It's funny though. We all had shitty cars, I mean, everybody had duct tape holding the damn thing together. Now you drive by the high school and it's like, you see the cars these kids are driving around. And they're like, they're driving nicer vehicles than me. Which I don't care. I like having an old truck around. I mean, I've got an 85 F-150 out in the driveway, and I've got a 04 diesel, and the 85 runs better. Yeah. And you know what the thing is if the shit hits the fan, if we do get hit with the EMP or whatever, because let's face it, one of these days the grid's gonna go down.
It's gonna go. Well, look at Texas or.
I know. Look what happened there. Can you imagine being like my buddies that all live in LA? I've talked to them. I'm like, dude. If the shit hits the fan and it goes down in LA and everybody loses their phones and their devices, I said, people can't function without that stuff. Really?
Yeah.
Watch what happens when you take your device away from your kid.
Oh, I have. That was like the best control device when I raised a teenager.
The crazy thing is that they're freaking out for a little while. And then once they come, once they zone back, they come back in. then all of a sudden it's like a totally different kid. Like
Uh-huh.
their behavior changes, and they're like respectful and nice, and they are industrious. They find things to do instead of just, and I mean,
Well, I
it's
joked
bad
about
what
my
we've
daughter
done. I
was
mean, people want to bitch
sexually
about
transmitted
millennials.
diseases when she was a teenager because my adult child's old enough that we still had to pay for text messages. And so her
Back
cell
when you had to
phone.
use T9 Word.
Yeah, exactly. Her dad was.
Now you just
He
talk to
paid
the
for her
thing.
cell phone. He paid for her cell phone, and one time he literally she sent so many text messages. He said his phone bill was this fucking thick, and it came in a
Oh,
box
jeez. Whoa.
because she had sent 14,000 text messages in a month.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And that's what he was like, how is that even possible? I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, and it was like month after month, and then it was finally it was right at the cusp where it was like then it became like unlimited texting or whatever.
Right.
And it was like, well, thank God, because
yeah, I remember switching to AT&T, and this was like in 02, 03.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out how to use I got it, like, it was like a Nokia. I'm trying to figure out how to use it. And I'm like, I'd had like the Motorola brick things, and I'm like, and then it had this text message thing on it, And I remember at the time I was like, okay, and I click on it, and it's like asking who I want to send it to. And I'm like, so I click my girlfriend's number, and then it comes up with blank, and I'm looking at the, it's like you have to hit the button, ABC,
I was telling me
and then I figured out T9 Word. I remember I'm sitting there one day, and this was like as late as like 06. I'm sitting there at the bar, and I'm sending a text message to this girl. And my buddy's like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing?" He's like, "Don't you know what T9 Word is?" And I'm like,
"Yeah, no."
I said, "I've seen it on there, but I don't know what it is." And he's like, "Well, I'll show you how to use it." And I'm like, well, "Okay." And then it figures out how to like guess. I was like, "Well, hey, Dave, I'm texting like a champ now." Who'd ever thought? I mean, we go back. I mean, I remember as a kid, the landline. You'd have the rotary landline, and I remember carrying the thing down the hall as far as the cord would go and trying to like duck into a closet so your parents couldn't hear you on the phone. And then inevitably they'd pick up a phone upstairs or some other. You'd hear it click and you'd know they were listening to you, and you're like, all of a sudden you and the girl you're talking to is like,
yeah,
I think so.
Well, and you had to have like the cojones to call the girl and risk talking to her parents.
Right. Yeah. And the dad would answer. Hello, sir. May I speak with your daughter? Who the hell is this? You meatball,
Yeah. Well, and we're of the age where it was still kind of expected that the boy called first. Now,
totally.
Which I fully support. But I fully support girls having the same responsibility and ability to reach out first. But now it's like, now as a parent, and you have a teenage son, and my son's almost 12, it's just like, dude, once you send something, like the picture messaging, and I'm like, once you send it, you can't take it back.
Right.
You lose control of whatever you send.
I tried to tell my son that with that crap chat.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, dude, he's like, it disappears after 30 seconds. I'm like, yeah, well, ask Chris D'Elia about that. I don't know if you know who he is.
I don't know, but I've heard enough stories. All they have to have is screen recording on.
He's a comedian, and he was playing some shows, and I'm not positive. It was either it was one of those small states. It was Delaware or Rhode Island.
Sure.
Where the legal age of consent is 17.
Oh, yeah.
And so he was, early 30s, and and hooked up with like the 17-year-old girl.
Yeah. It might be legal.
It was legal there, but she was sending him all the messages and the pictures and the things like that on Snapchat, and they caught him up on a podcast. And they did it real sneaky, like showing him how, like, he was on there and they were talking about how it doesn't go away in 30 seconds. It does have an electronic fingerprint, and it doesn't go away. And he's like, wait, what? What do you, no, they disappear in 30 seconds. And these people, they're like, and they caught him up just like that, you know? And I mean, it damn near ruined his career. I mean, I'm not here to judge anybody, but I mean, 17 and you're in their 30s. That's regardless
it's like it might be legal.
Regardless of the legalities of it, there's a moral line there. That's a big difference between 17 and 32 and say 32 and 45. I mean, that's
for sure. Life experience. Well, it's like that's the other thing is like we talk about morals and ethics and stuff. There's a reason that the barely legal is one of the most downloaded porn categories, and so it's like, and I fully support like ethical porn. I don't give a shit what a consenting adult does. Fuck a toaster. I don't care.
Good luck with that. Welcome to the burn ward.
But like, whatever, do whatever kink, get it, go for it.
Get familiar with a gauze pad.
But like, I just struggle with like some of those,
Oh, I do too.
Like,
I have a really hard time with it.
This is as young as I can go, but if the legalities were any younger, and if you like, I've seen that barely legal porn, they look fucking 12, and it's like, I get it, they might be legal, but let's just talk about it. This is not. No, you're seeking out shit that's. It's all bad. Yep.
And then I had a real issue with it when I was locked up, and I could not stand. And the thing is, when you're locked up with the child molesters, you can't put hands on them.
Yeah,
because if you do, you're going to get a hate crime, and you're going to get another 5 years. And so I would just make their lives hell, and I'd always get shit from case managers and counselors and shit, and they'd be like, "File, why are you fucking messing with these guys?" Like, because I fucking can't stand them.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "Well, most of them are only in here for just possessing child pornography." And I'm like, guess what? I'm like, every one of those images, I'm like, every image, every bit of that they've sold to somebody, transferred to somebody, every image on there that they've gotten their rocks off on, I'm like, that's a ruined child's life. You understand that? I'm like, so just because maybe they haven't got caught, in the act, you can't just say that it's okay just because they're only just looking at the images, because by taking part in that, you are, you're exacerbating the fact that you're taking a child, an innocent individual, and you're, for your own.
So there's a app that I use. It's called eTrafficked, and if you end up in a hotel room, so there's a ton of known child porn, unfortunately, and a lot of it is filmed in hotel rooms. So there's this app that was created that you can go into a hotel room, and because a lot of times that's how they figured out where things have happened.
Really?
So so you get in and it has you take photos from like 4 different angles, and then you upload it and you note where you're at. And so it's like crowdsourcing locations, so then they can cross-reference with known child porn images or trafficking images, because it might be that fucking painting in the back of the, this painting behind me that consistently shows up.
Or a shot out the window or something.
Yep, or a bedspread or whatever.
Now, who has that job to do that, though? That's got to be pretty fucking disturbing.
I would imagine. I think they probably have it.
I mean, it's got to be,
digitized.
It's probably all set up with artificial intelligence right now, but to start it, there had to have been somebody.
And then there's got to be somebody who reviews it to see once something pops up is like, oh, here we have a hit. They've got a cross-reference. But, when I travel, I'll do it, because it's like, okay, that's a really easy way to help.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I'll have to look into that now.
Yeah. Oh,
that's crazy.
awesome.
I didn't even have any idea. But you see, like, that's the big problem with, everything that's going on down on the border right now, and, the whole argument of kids being locked in cages and that, and it's like, what are you supposed to do with these children? They're unaccompanied, no paperwork. They're coming across with these coyotes that are in with the cartels. What do you do? Are you supposed to just let these children just go? And because where they're going to end up.
Yeah.
It's not going to be good.
No.
And it's like you hate the idea of you don't want to see. Obviously, you don't want to see children end up in cages, and of course not. But
and it breaks my heart, because it's like, as a parent, I cannot imagine. I've lived a generally privileged life in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of the world.
Certainly.
Being born in America, I'm 10 steps ahead of the rest of the world.
Even if you're homeless in America, you're
Yep.
I mean,
But as a parent, I cannot imagine the set of circumstances that I would have to face where the choice is better to hand my child over to some random ass stranger and trust that he or she is going to follow through on like taking my child to a better life in America. I cannot wrap my head
or
around
the knowledge that what they're going to go through is going to be absolutely horrific, but they're going to be better off.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
like all the females that take birth control before they make the journey across the border because they know the chance that they're going to get raped is
high.
And so they're willing to take that and say okay.
Yeah, I
and that right there just makes you go, holy shit. I mean, to be willing to put yourself in that kind of position.
Yeah.
Because regardless of that happening to you, just by taking birth control, okay, you're going to get out of it better than what you had where you're at. I mean, that's I mean, that to me is just like, holy shit, you know? I mean, that's heavy duty. You know?
Yeah. Or the people in Afghanistan where they've got, girls that they're selling off to marry at 8 and 9.
Yeah.
And it's like, they've got, 5 children and they can't feed any of them. But if I marry off this one, I can feed these 4 children. It's like fucking Sophie's Choice 2021.
Right. And then you're sending your daughter out with some
80-year-old
piece of shit this disgusting motherfucker that who knows what the fuck,
She's the 5th wife.
I mean, and you look at all the people that, I mean, when we left there, I mean, you think about how bad it must be when you hang on to the outside of a fucking
airplane.
Yeah. And then when you get up and you're airborne, that I mean, granted, a lot of those people probably didn't even have a clue what landing gear was and what happens when those doors start to close. But I mean, you're 2,000 feet in the air and you're faced with a choice: let go or basically get like severed in half.
Yeah.
And it was that bad that you had to get on the side of that plane. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just Chicago, crazy.
I was in Chicago maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and it's not the Sears Tower anymore. It's called something else. But they had one of those, it's 100 stories, and it had those little plexiglass boxes that you could step out into.
Yeah.
And so I did it. I was like terrified beyond all belief, but I'll usually do almost anything at least once. And so I stepped out. A caveat, almost anything.
So it's the last time.
Yeah.
So it's the first and last.
Well, and that was the thing. It was like I stepped out into it and I got some pictures and then I looked down and I distinctly remember looking down and I stepped back in and I kept it to myself that night because I didn't want to be the party pooper in the group of people I was in. But I was like, fuck, the 9/11 jumpers. And I remember looking down thinking,
yeah, there's your choice.
What is in space inside that building that was the better
That's
choice.
The way you go.
That was a less horrific death.
It's got to be the absolute worst.
And it broke my heart. And I've carried it and I've sat with it for 5 or 6 years now because it was so prophetic in my heart when I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. Like, that's a check right there, right? I mean, when you're faced with that.
Yeah. And it was just like.
And I mean, that's why, like guys that are in the military, that it's like, if you become a POW in certain situations, it's like, make sure you got one left in the chamber for you.
Yep.
Or 2, one for your partner and one for you. Because it's going to, and I mean, you think about that shit with like, I mean, I've seen videos with like the way cartels handle.
Oh yeah, I accidentally watched the Nick Berg beheading, and I hated myself.
Oh yeah, and I've seen worse than. I mean, and I know a lot of those cats down there and stuff too. You know what I mean? They're just ruthless, and I mean, but yeah, that, and then you think back to the War of the Worlds when they did that radio broadcast, and people were bailing out, and then the Great Depression. Right when the stock market crashed, there were people bailing out of. They're bailing out of Wall Street over money. Over money, they're bailing out.
Well, there was like that 5 or 6 years ago where the military fucked up and accidentally said, "Take cover, incoming nuclear missile. There was
in Hawaii.
In Hawaii.
They basically the emergency broadcast system. And I talked to I got a lot of friends over there, and I talked to a number of them, and they were like, "That was fucked up." We didn't know what to think.
Yeah.
And that was
for sure. Like there was like the
catastrophe.
story of the guy where he could make it to one child. He knew he had 2 kids. In 2 different locations, and he could make it to one child.
Right. And how do you make that decision?
To make that decision, and then he made the decision to go to the younger one, and now that older one has to live with. Dad didn't choose me.
The knowledge that
and as a parent, it's like, okay, I guess you'd pick the younger one, but I don't even fucking know.
How do you have that conversation with that other child too?
Yeah.
Do you say, well, you're the older one. I figured that maybe you would be able to
die easier,
deal with it, handle it. I mean, and then it comes out of some guy makes a stupid mistake and
my heart broke for him too, because have to carry that to just make a simple
it's not like the person did that on purpose. Who would do that on purpose? I mean, you got to be a sick, sadistic, twisted fuck to do something like that on purpose.
And they established that it was truly an accident, and it's like,
but there's irreparable damage done by that too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people were stuffing their children in sewers, thinking, okay, well, maybe this is a.
Yeah. No, my buddy said they didn't know what to eat. Not a clue.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I've never had a near death.
You think about it though. I mean, shit like that could happen, just like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really would not take much for some despot leader somewhere to just, I mean, or somebody domestic, an EMP. I mean, think about all the people that are without cell service, like in Kentucky, Missouri, Tennessee, Arkansas right now, from these tornadoes. I mean, when you lose that communication, I was in Seattle, February 28th, 2001, when that 7.3 earthquake hit.
Oh,
I'd never been in an earthquake, and I was 3 floors up in an apartment building. I'm sitting there and I'm painting the window trim out, right? And all of a sudden the ground, I'm like, somebody must be I'm thinking they're bringing heavy equipment on the job site, right? So I'm looking out the window. I don't see a track hoe. I don't see an excavator anywhere. I keep painting, and all of a sudden, I mean, the ground, I look out and I can see this pond across the way. And I mean, we're in a big, huge, like 1,500 unit complex, like a big apartment. Tons of buildings. And I look out and I can see the water is doing this, and it's splashing out of the pond in this park, and I can see it's roll, and I'm like, oh shit! And I'd set my paint bucket down, and I jumped from one landing to the next, and was out the door. And I looked to my right, looked to my left, and there was guys doing the same thing. And we sat there, and I remember my work van was right in front of me, and the tires were going up over my head, and then the ladder rack was going down below my feet. It was doing that, and I was just like, oh. And then nobody had phone service.
Yeah.
And I remember I sat down, literally, this was back when I smoked cigarettes, and I sat down cross-legged on the ground, and I lit up a cigarette, just sat there, just like, and the thought process was just about, like, how small we all really are when it comes down to it, how fragile everything is. It's like when Mother Nature's pissed off, and it's like all your little gadgets and devices, and this is when cell phones were starting to, pick up. The technology was really advancing, I guess, in the early 2000s. Because I had one back as early as I think 96. I got my first cell phone, and it was just a big old. You had to buy the bigger battery. And,
phone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was like $190 a month for like 90 minutes.
Yeah, obnoxious.
There was nothing on it. It was all analog and orange and weird, and
Yeah.
Service didn't work with
the earthquakes, significant earthquakes up here in Alaska, like the 7.5 and a 7.1. And
that's big.
So the 7.1.
Where were you when that happened?
So that's the funny story. So that one impacted Anchorage more. Like, it was closer to Anchorage, but Anchorage is not that far away where I live.
Right.
And as the crow flies. And it was funny. It happened around three years ago, and I was in bed. It happened about 8:30 in the morning. And so my black lab, who made an appearance here a little bit ago.
That's where the gray hair came from.
Yes, right? Well, he was ready to go to battle. So when I'm home by myself, my son was at his dad's. When I'm home by myself, it's silly, but I sleep with my bedroom door locked. I'm like, it'll give me 10, maybe 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds would be wishful thinking. somebody comes in my house, they're not going to expect that I'm announcing it on YouTube, whatever. But,
So I get cameras.
Yeah. So I was like, my bedroom door was locked, and I woke up to my dog snarling like I had never heard him snarl. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? You wake up from that like crazy sleep. You're not sure. You're confused.
Right.
And all I hear my door, jiggling in the door jamb. And I thought, okay.
You thought you had a home invasion.
I was like, and I sat up, and I remember this sense of calm just completely washed over me, and time slowed down. And I was like, all right, motherfucker, I don't know what is about to happen, but you're going to earn whatever you do. You're going to fucking earn it. And I was like, let's go. And at about the same, it takes longer to tell than it did to happen. At about the same time, I realized my house was going, and I had never been so thankful for an earthquake in my entire fucking life. I was like,
watching shit fall off the walls, you're like, yes.
I'm not going to be raped and murdered today. I might have my house crumble down on me, but that's
but at least I'm not going out like that.
And so I grabbed my phone and wrote it out, and everything was fine. But like you said, the phones, I don't know a single fucking phone number except 911.
Right.
Like, I don't need to know phone numbers, so I wouldn't even be able to call my mom and be like, that's what's crazy. Fine.
Yeah. I had to learn a bunch of when I went away, because on vacation, obviously you don't have them, but
sure.
When I got back out, there's a crazy thing about that. I get back out, right? And of course I got to set up a bank account. I started a business, and I go and deposit my first big check from the job I was doing. And I had to order checks from the bank, and I get a call, and it says 587-5178. And I'm sitting there with the one guy that was working for me at the time, because I only had one employee. I mean, literally was just fresh out. And I'm like, dude, this is my phone number from my whole childhood. I'm like, this is the number that like I grew up with.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't answer it. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm like, I answered, and it's the bank. And the lady's like, oh, we're just letting you know that your checks are here. You can come pick them up. And I was like, okay. I was like, you know what's really weird? I said that your number showed up as like my childhood. Like that number was the number that I had from the time I can remember.
Sure.
Like, and I told my mom finally, I think it was, I don't know, I think I was 30 years old. I finally told her, I was like, why are you paying that phone bill? I'm like, everybody's got you don't need a landline anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, and she's like, but we've always had this phone. I'm like, do you use it? Like, get rid of it. You're just spending money on something you don't use every month. I mean, and so my bank ends up with that phone number. I was just like,
that's crazy.
Like, but I remember phone numbers of
I remember my childhood phone number.
Yeah, right. Like they're ingrained in your head, right? Yeah, like.
Yep.
I mean,
or I would tell people if they couldn't remember my phone number, we still had phone books, and I was like, I'm the second to last Smith in the phone book.
you were blessed with having the
42 pages of Smiths.
Right, yeah, the most common last name.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's, oh gosh. Yeah, I can imagine you've probably been confused with a lot of people over the years, huh? With that,
there was
there's got to be a lot. I mean, obviously not Summer Smith anymore, but I mean.
Yeah. Well, when we still lived in Cody, there was another Summer Smith, weirdly enough. Yeah. And she was always in trouble. Like, because you remember, the good old Cody Enterprise that would print every.
It's even worse now. They have a website.
Oh.
Website now. And so I hate that shit. I have to tell people all the time, I'm like, do not send me screenshots of people that I know that got arrested. It's like, I do not get off on the misery of others.
Exactly.
Like if I know this person and they got arrested, I don't want to see that. I'm not happy about it. It doesn't make me feel good. It's like, I feel bad for them, and having been through the system. I mean, when I got arrested, it was on the fucking news. There was helicopters. There was FBID. I mean, it was a fucking fiasco. And I mean, you should have seen fucking Facebook and the way people blew up on me and the shit they talked about me, and they didn't even understand anything about what had happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't do I walked into a fucking fucked up situation.
I remember, and I
had my gun.
This doesn't. I mean, I didn't know you well in high school at all,
Right?
And I remember the minimum that I knew. I was like, that doesn't seem like the guy.
No, and I mean,
true.
Yeah, and I mean, I had a pistol with me, but I mean, I'm from Wyoming. I mean,
You're from Wyoming.
And it was in the bottom of my duffel bag, and I left the duffel bag in the hotel room, and I went up the street to the liquor store to get some beer, and I came back and walked into what had happened, and then I just tried to get us out of it. And now I'm a violent federal felon because of it, and it's like, and I mean, I told the assistant U.S. attorney before sentencing, and I was like, this is some bullshit. And she's like, well, it appears that you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. I said, yeah, okay. And I said, so probation, what? She's like, oh no, we're going after you for 60 months. She's like, I just started this job, so I got to get my convictions.
Got to make my name, yeah.
And I'm just sitting there looking at my attorney, who's court appointed, didn't give a shit about me. He's just like, I'm like, what? I mean, so now I'm a violent felon, which is hilarious. I mean, am I capable of violence? Of course.
Sure, all of us are.
Do I choose to, I mean, I hope to never ever be in another violent situation in my life, honestly. But hey, I mean, you have to know how to be a monster to not be a monster, I guess that's kind of one of the dualities in life. But anyway, just kind of a crazy life, crazy shit. I mean, it is what it is. Things go weird, but
Things go sideways, but.
They do, but I mean, you got an option. I mean, when things go sideways, when you bottom out, you got a choice. Are you going to just sit there on the bottom and scamper around like a crab going sideways, or are you gonna bounce back up? You have
a choice. I mean, there's a choice in everything. That's sort of my life motto. There's a choice in everything. You can lay down and die, or you can just pull yourself up by your bootstraps that may or may not exist and carry on.
That's why I tattooed the red pill on my hand last night. I'm going to put a blue one on my other hand.
There you go.
Choice is yours, red pill, blue pill, which is it going to be?
Exactly.
I mean, everything in life is a duality. You know what I mean? There's
and sometimes you don't get a choice of what happens to you, but you do get a choice of how you respond.
That's exactly it.
That's sort of been my life motto of.
Right, and also you have to understand that you're not responsible for other people's reactions as well. People have a tendency to make you feel guilty for their reaction to a situation. And it's like, no, I've had to learn that the hard way as well. It's like, my reaction is I own that. It's like, regardless of what, say you say something that just gets me triggered, well, that's my reaction. That's on me. It's not you. You can say whatever you want to say. And that's why I always have enjoyed the
caveat.
That's why I've enjoyed our correspondence and our interaction on social media has always been like, although we don't necessarily agree, all the time, but you always bring forth things that perhaps I don't think about, and maybe vice versa. But we always have the respect, the mutual respect for one another to examine the other side of things. And respect that, and then go,
yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Maybe I was fucked up in thinking that way.
Well, that's the thing for me. Like, I think, like I said earlier, the diversity of thought. You get a better end product when you have more viewpoints that feed into this system. You get a better end product.
You have perspective.
With that said, I can be very, very stubborn in what this is what I think, this is what I feel, but I always still try to be respectful. The minute somebody busts out, you're an idiot and they've misspelled your.
Here comes the grammar police.
It's the only time I will be the grammar police. Somebody.
Here comes the asterisk.
Yeah. So that is my one, because grammar is a privilege, and grammar is also a construct. It's a construct. It's some white group of people decided this is how shit gets said 300 years ago, and no, you can articulate a point in a variety of ways. But yeah, it's the you're an idiot is where I like. But
I've really had to stop doing that because at first, I mean, being a creative writing major and the English language being one of the few things that I was ever good at, I guess.
You're a phenomenal writer.
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you. But I would always do that I'd be like, I would discount what they said because they, not taking into consideration that, okay, maybe this person hasn't had the opportunity to have the education that I've had. And here I am just discounting what they've said based on the punctuation that they've used or the way they've spelled a word. And now I'm just completely discounting this person's feelings or their thoughts on something because, well, fuck you. Fucking
you anti-intellectual.
It's an apostrophe. Figure it out. Fucking apostrophe. Spell that. It's like
I have come to the realization that we graduated out of a very, very good school district. Having not that the local school district where my kids are going to go to school is bad, but I mean, remember how many classes we had? We had a radio station, and I think you guys have a TV station now. And like when my daughter was in high school, I was like, well, where's all the electives? She's like, what do you mean? And there was literally like 12 electives.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
all sorts of options.
Where's the cool shit? She's like, Mom, this is it. And we had like 70 things to choose from.
Sure, you can do journalism and I mean, I love that.
My
senior
car,
year.
like the shop department, shop where they would buy a car, fix the car all school year, then sell it so that the next grade could buy another car and learn how to. Those are the skills that we're just chucking out the window.
Or you didn't have money and you'd go get a piece of shit car and you'd fix it up so you'd have something to drive. I mean, none of us
Driver's ed was part of the curriculum.
Driver's ed isn't even around anymore.
Oh, well, here it's not part of the school. It's there's like a private driver's ed or whatever.
Yeah,
but when we came through, we lucked out.
I think so too. Yeah,
we had a very good education.
I think we kind of had the end of a lot of things. That kids are not going to know anymore. And I mean, we had the opportunity to also grow up in a time where we could make mistakes and fuck ups and do stupid shit, and not everybody would know the next day in school. Like it didn't go viral. We didn't. I mean, there was certainly bullying that went on, but I mean, it wasn't the cyber bullying. And
you could go home and you got a break from the bullying.
Certainly, and
all night long.
And as a young man at that point in time too, you could go out and fight. I mean, I don't know how many times, you had the whole, train going out to Red Lake for somebody, and you'd go out and you fisticuffs up and you'd go after it with somebody and
it was still a fair fight too.
And whatever, however it turned out, win, lose, whatever, you got respect because you stood up for yourself. You shook hands with the guy. Afterward, and and then from then on, you were friends, and you like that other individual realized, okay, you're going to stand up for yourself, and you realize that hey, they stood up for themselves too. And I mean, it was like it wasn't even about who wins or loses. It was just about the fact of And I'm not advocating physical violence in any way whatsoever, but it is something that
my kids avoid a fight.
Something that happens.
When one comes to your doorstep, you end it, you finish it.
Right. And that's what I've told my son. My dad told me the same thing. He said, listen, he goes, if you're in an altercation with somebody, he goes, don't get involved with that push and shove bullshit. You hit me, he goes, if it's going to happen. And he goes, you're going to get in trouble either way. Like, so you might as well just throw down. And I mean,
that's,
I mean, like I said, I don't advocate that either, but I've told my kid the same thing. I said, if somebody is violating your person or your property, you have every right to defend yourself. And I said,
and I will stand by you 100%.
I said, do so aggressively. Don't allow people to walk all over you.
Yeah, and then I
went through the same thing inside. I mean,
if you take him to the ground, and I told him, like my son particularly, when the fight's over, the fight's over. So you knock him out. It's not. You don't keep hitting. It's over. Yeah. Said your piece. It's done. But you don't. You have every right to defend yourself.
Well, a good example of that whole construct. I don't know if you've ever watched. Have you watched the show called Letterkenny?
I'm familiar with it, but I haven't watched it.
It's the main character. I can't remember Jared. I can't remember his last name. He plays Wayne, and he's what they call a hick. And it's kind of like the Canadian version of Cody, Wyoming, right? And he's the toughest guy.
Oh shit! Okay.
He's the toughest guy in Letterkenny, right? Growing up, like this guy, but then he gets his girlfriend, and she kind of pussy whips him, and he can't fight anymore, right? So now he can't fight. Well, she cheats on him with some fedora wearing, hipster looking, whatever, and he hasn't fought in a long time, and the guy pushes it with him because he knows he's not going to fight back because, you know, anyway, he finally snaps and just, you know, lays the dude out. But he always, so then from the time he starts fighting again, all the guys who think they're the toughest in Letterkenny are showing up at his property to fight him. And so he'll be sitting there smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer or whatever, and he'll, you know, he gets up and he undoes his buttons on his shirt, throws his cigarette down, and walks up to the guy, and they reach out and they shake hands, and then, you know, but every time he stops, you know, as soon as the guy's down, and it's like, if you had enough, as soon as he realizes, if the guy acknowledges he's had enough, and okay, you are the tough, you know, they shake hands, and I mean, he'll help him up. You know, you want to go to a birthday party? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, really, and that's a part of it. I mean, people are gonna. I mean, you know, we are violent creatures. You know, and we do have the propensity to be, you know, very malevolent.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I think that's part of growing up. I mean, you go through those types. I mean, you know, thankfully I have not had to resort to that in quite some time. And like I said, I hope to never have to ever again.
Sure.
But certainly, I mean, I know the last time when the police showed up and I was working as a bartender and he came in and was like, Mike, can I get your statement on what happened? You know, and he's like,
yeah.
We go back in the office, you know, sit down, and it's a gentleman that both of us know we went to school with, and he goes, shakes his head, he goes, how many times did you hit him? I said, once. He goes, once? I said, yeah, one time. I said, I let him hit me twice. I told him, I said, I told the guy the third time it wasn't going to happen. And I said, he swung the third time and said, I hit him one time. He's like, I've never seen anything. He goes, the guy's getting his nose stitched back on his face. And because the thing was hanging off. Like,
yeah, well,
I'm like, sorry, man, I saw red, you know. It's like, you know, I told him not to do it again. And I mean.
And weren't you a pitcher?
What's that?
In high school? Weren't you a baseball pitcher?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
no bar.
I mean, I didn't. Hey, they're talking.
I don't know. Don't start.
What's funny is that I'm now a cat. I'm a cat owner.
Oh well, see, I have
hate that
cats.
cat. He drives me nuts.
3 cats, 2 dogs, and a snake.
And a snake?
And a snake.
What kind of snake? What kind of snake survives in Alaska?
A ball python. She's badass.
Oh my God.
She's about 4 feet long.
Wow. Oh God.
It was funny. My son asked for this fucking snake a couple years ago for Christmas. I had zero desire to do snakes. Although, fun fact, my great grandma danced with a snake in vaudeville to feed her family.
Wow.
And she was just this little teeny 4'11". She would have been called like a floozy in the 20s. And I like to joke and say I come from a long line of shady ladies.
Snake dancers and was she speaking in tongues?
Well,
as long as she wasn't speaking in tongues, then you know.
But like, I've got my my grandma who played in the women's baseball league, like League of Their Own. She was a pitcher. Yep. Oh, I can't throw a ball to save my fucking life, but I didn't. It was pre-League of Their Own. Pre-League of Their Own.
What a great movie.
Oh yeah. But I didn't know my grandma's history, and so she was visiting, and my brother was like, "Hey, grandma," or he wanted me to play, and I was like, "No." And my grandma's like, "I'll play with you." And grandma was like 70 and fucking wound up and whipped this ball, and I was like, "Excuse me."
Like, what?
What? And she's like, I
awesome.
played a little ball back in the 40s, and my mom's like, "You played more than a little ball. You went to the World Series." My grandma's in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
No kidding.
And yeah,
that's awesome.
She played pregnant with my mom.
Holy cow!
You know the picture of Babe Ruth where he's pointing. The dude right behind him was my grandma's coach. And
no kidding.
This is where I say she comes from the long line of shady ladies. They went to the World Series, and grandma got drunk and was hungover and fucked up the game.
That's awesome. Cheers to grandma.
Cheers to grandma.
Salute, grandma.
But
I've always loved that movie. That movie was just like, I mean, that's a great. Tom Hanks's part too.
There's no crying at baseball.
Drunk.
Yep.
Just drunk all the time. He sits there and sleeps.
Yep. I haven't watched that for a few years. I'm gonna have to watch it. But anyway, back to Snake.
That's one of those movies. If it comes on, if I like, I don't have TV per se anymore, but it was one of those movies that if it came on, I would watch it.
Yep.
I mean, I had to, just because. I mean, not only do I still love baseball. I mean, I still love the game. But it's just one of those. There's a few of those movies that they come on and it's like, nope.
Mine's Steel Magnolias. I don't expect you to watch the same movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's one of my. Definitely not. Another one's Hidalgo. I love Hidalgo.
Okay, yeah.
That's one. I don't know. There's a few of them. Yeah. And if there's a Back to the Future, like 3 in a row.
Back to the Future. Yep.
Oh God, that used to happen. It seemed like every year around the holidays, But yeah, after I got divorced, I was like, fuck this TV shit. I mean, I've got TVs and screens all over the place, but I don't use them for. I just realized I was enslaved to the TV, Like I would make my plans around what football game was going to be on, or what baseball game, or what show, and I was just like, what are you doing? Go live.
Well, that's what I like about streaming. I can just watch it when it's convenient, which I have gotten hooked on Yellowstone.
Yeah, that was a good. I watched the first season of that. That one was good.
I'm like, this rings true.
And I like listening to. I mean, I have a laptop out in my shop and one down at my other shop, and I mean, I like just putting in. I like listening to the long form conversations. Just put it on, and I mean, sometimes I just like listening to music, but a lot of times it's, it's nice to just hear a conversation, and if you're doing something that you are adept at, right? I mean, a lot of things I do, it's repeat. It's like I've done this a million times. You're kind of in like autopilot, and so to have something in the background that actually stimulates some thought is nice, rather than just listening to music. But sometimes you just want to put on Injustice for All and thrash that motherfucker.
Yeah, I was like, my camera's all wonky. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's YouTube's been a game changer for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And it's cool that you can just catch clips of different things too. I mean, I like just sitting back and listening to different funny shows where they'll just have like the clips. You don't even really have to be watching it, but make you laugh. I don't know.
Well, and like.
And then I'm always doing this too, so it's, oh, there we go.
Sure.
I'll just cut out,
cut
back in, come back. Here we go. Come on back.
That's okay.
Oh, who's calling me? I hate these phones.
It's a mixed blessing.
It really is. Most of the time I want to take mine and just like skip it off the road.
Yeah.
I like it because I've got my Spotify on there, and then maps, this, that, the other, I mean, really, I use it as a tool more so than anything, and not to necessarily speak.
Atlas.
Right. Yeah, what's funny?
I can fly to anywhere in the world and like connect my phone to this weird system in the sky, and I can get like turn by turn directions wherever I'm going.
It's funny. The other day I'm over there on my other table over there. I'm looking at an old atlas that I had through like college, and everywhere I traveled, I marked it out, and things that happened along the way, I would write them down. And I found that thing the other day, and I was thinking, my God, I was going, I mean, young people, in this time period, they would be hard pressed to be able to get somewhere with a Rand McNally atlas. I mean,
my grandson or my son, his grandfather. I don't have a grandson yet. To my knowledge,
too young for that.
I'm not. My daughter's 26.
I know, that's crazy. I was, when you told me that the other day, I was like, holy shit, because I do remember.
I'm ready to be a grandma, but my son's grandfather, who grew up in Alaska for the most part, they've done like road trips every summer for the last 6 or 7 years. They would do like an epic 2-week Alaskan road trip. A couple summers ago they did a Texas to Alaska road trip. But that's one thing that he has. My son at now 11, but even when he was like 9, can read an atlas. And grandpa was like, no, because grandpa can barely operate the phone.
That's how
he
most
made
grandpas
sure.
are. They're like, what the
Yeah.
hell? Get this goddamn thing away from me.
Exactly. So my son can actually manipulate an atlas, which I'm really excited because he doesn't know this, and I'm going to assume he's not going to run into this feed. I booked up his big Christmas trip, or his big Christmas present for me this year is a road trip in Arizona in February.
Oh,
and
nice.
My crazy ass rented an RV.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So
you guys are going to have a great time.
I think so. He's got more RV experience than I do. And
are you going to take him to Sedona? Take him to Sedona.
Yep. So we're going to
go to
Sedona. Yep.
Yeah, check the vortex. Sedona is crazy.
Antelope Canyon. It's that one that is that crazy ass, like tight ass canyon. Mm-hmm. He's going to lose his shit.
And Sedona is cool as shit. The vortex is, I mean, it I used to go, they used to have concerts there.
Okay.
And that's the only time I've been to Arizona was I went to Sedona.
Nice.
To see the string cheese incident. And it was a great show. And I mean, there's some weird shit going on out there.
Well, I mean, we live in Alaska, so he's seen some weird shit.
Sure. Yeah, in the American Southwest, there's crazy stuff. I mean, like, the time I spent in Nevada, I mean, I could go on and on and on about the paranormal shit I saw there, and I wasn't even on drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I wasn't on drugs during that time, but I mean, there were times that they were just completely
stone cold sober, and you're like, what the fuck is that?
What in the hell is that flying up over there?
Yep.
Why is this red light following me down the fucking highway? I mean, we were one night doing that, and I'm sitting there, my girlfriend's asleep, and I'm trying to get to Vegas. I'm driving my old Volkswagen bus, and I'm looking out the left, and this red light is just right along the horizon. And we're out there where they've got all the, the ammo dumps and everything out there.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've been down there around that area. I mean, it's you look out, and it was a moonlit night, and you can just see there's bunkers. I mean, every certain. They're just spaced out, and they go as far as you can see. And they're got to be full of something. I mean, everybody speculates, but nobody I knew ever. I mean, we went up there on one of those roads one night. We were tired, and we were just trying to find a place to crash. And, I mean, these two Humvees came down, dudes with machine guns. And, I mean, we literally, wouldn't even let us turn around. We, backed down the road to the highway, and they followed us all the way. And until we took off, they didn't go back up. And
they come out of nowhere.
And they were not happy. The only other time I had that happen was in Northern California, and we must have come up on a big weed grow op,
Oh, sure.
Because we were the same thing. And it's funny because I was with the same guys. We're going up this road in Northern California, up in the redwoods, and all of a sudden I see these lights coming at us. I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And I got a gold BMW with Wyoming plates on it, and I'm like, oh, fuck it.
Yeah.
I started backing up before they even got down to us because there was nowhere to turn around.
Nowhere to go.
I mean, they were right on us the whole way out of there, And we never talked to those guys, but they did not mean us anything good.
You could tell by the body language of the car, and I totally believe you.
Well, and two of them too, and they came flying down. I mean, I could see the headlights. I couldn't see them per se because of the redwood trees and shit, but you could see. And I was just like, oh, these guys are coming fast, They were like, this is not a. Yeah, I was like, we made a bad decision.
Back it up.
Yeah, we backed it up, and I remember that night we ended up down at a place that was called Clam Beach in Northern California, and so we had this wall tent with us, and on that trip we had broken poles on it, and everything. It was just pretty much worthless. It was pretty much like a flag at that point. And I remember, so we parked the BMW, we go down, and we start a fire. We only had, we had some beers, and we had a sack of potatoes. And so I found some scrub brush and shit around the beach, and we started a fire, and I brought my guitar down there, and we decided to go to bed. So we're in this thing, and we had a branch holding up one end and a broken pole. And I mean, there's three of us in there, and so we go in there, we get in that thing and fall asleep, and it was 3 a.m, and I wake up and I can feel something knocking me in the head, ding, ding. What the? And I realize I'm soaking wet. And I look at my guitar's floating in the water, and it's whacking, it's hitting me in the head. The tide had come all the way up. We were up at the back end of the beach. It was just one of those weird high tides, one of those 23-foot high tides, right?
Sure.
And my guitar's all dong, dong, and I'm trying to wake the other guys up, and I'm like, dudes, I'm going, and I grab my sleep, it's all sop and wet, and grab my guitar and, of tromping out of there through the wet sand and get up to my car, start it up, and I'm laying there asleep. And I mean, those guys, they slept through the night in that crap. And then in the morning, the tent was done. Like, this tent is over. We started that trip off with a 1/4 pound of weed and a sheet of acid and a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert in San Francisco.
Wisconsin
like
is that what you
dudes. We were stuck in
Wisconsin to California.
We were stuck in the dorms. We were at the University of Nevada in Reno, and we were stuck in the dorms for spring break. Like, we didn't have no place to go. Everybody else went home and shit. We were like the miscreants. Mm-hmm. We're all feeling sorry for ourselves, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, hey, and this was back before you had anything on computer.
Yeah.
I mean, I had happened to go down to my buddy's. He had a head shop, and they'd have like these local publications with like music, and so I look at that and I see, okay, Red Hot Chili Peppers and the Toadies are opening at the Cow Palace in San Francisco,
Oh yeah.
So I go back and we're all feeling sorry for ourselves and, drinking the day away. And I'm like, I was like, hey, fuck this. I said, I got a 1/4 pound of weed. And I said, I got gas in the tank. We'll go sell that shit in San Francisco. So we can go down to Haight Street and get a sheet of acid for $60. We'll sell that. I was like, so we went to the show and sold everything, ended up getting tickets to the concert, saw a great concert, and then
back when tickets were, not.
It funded a whole week it funded us for a whole week in Northern California. I mean, Jesus Christ. Whew, that was some times.
It was funny. My son's first concert was the Foo Fighters in Seattle.
Oh, that's awesome. They're great. That's funny as hell because I was just sitting here earlier today playing some Foo Fighters on my guitar.
Well, and it was funny because I didn't connect it. We took the trip to Seattle, and that was like the one thing I picked for me. The rest I catered to his desires.
Right. Where'd you see that? Key Arena?
Yeah, and it was when the two other surviving members, or I guess the one surviving member of Nirvana, came and played with
Chris Novoselic.
Yep, and I didn't even connect it, and Josh Robertson was like, is this the concert that you were at? And I was like, oh, holy shit, yeah. And my son, I mean, weed is legal in Alaska and has actually been legal for like 30 years. Being up there as a kid, I was all over the place. Yeah, but it was funny because he was like, what's that smell? And I'm like, it's nothing, it's fine. And then,
don't worry about it. Somebody hit a skunk.
It was like 50,000 people. It was the largest crowd I had been in. And it was definitely the largest crowd he had been in. And so then, this guy's like, he thought it was crazy. There was a guy that was like 3 or 4 rows up. And we were in the nosebleed seats. I sure as shit wasn't taking my 8-year-old to like the mosh pit. And
right.
So on the general admission or whatever.
Yeah.
So we were just in our seats and this guy was like spinning his hair and he thought that was the craziest thing he'd ever seen. And then we're like, the show wraps up, right? And he's like, Mom, it's time to go. I'm like, no, they're going to come back. He's like, Mom, they've left the stage. The show is over.
You're like, no, it's not.
Time to go. And I'm like, trust me, they'll be back.
Yeah, just wait.
And he thought I was like the dumbest lady on earth. And I'm like, it's called an encore. And all of a sudden he's like, they come back on the screen. I was like, told you. Your mom knows some shit.
The last time I saw those guys, they played 3 straight hours.
Yeah.
They did not take a set break, and then they stopped for the encore, and they went and they at the time they had this big diamond screen behind the stage that could move, and so it showed them backstage, and Dave and Taylor Hawkins and all they're back there and they're drinking Coors Light, and they're trying to wind the crowd up,
Yeah.
And Dave Grohl, he's drinking his beer and he's like, come on. And then everybody gets loud and he's like, okay, 1, what about 2? Everybody gets louder and he's like, how about 3? And how about 4? And they come back out and they did a 4-song encore. They played 3 hours straight, no set break, and then a 4-song encore. I mean, my favorite band, Widespread Panic, does that, but they always take a set break, and sometimes they'll, typically they'll do a lot of times it's a 1 song. So, I've seen them do as many as 4 songs, but I mean, to watch those guys do that though that night, I mean, and the energy that they had was just incredible.
Oh yeah,
I mean, have you ever seen Kiss Guy? Did you see Kiss Guy? Did you ever see the footage of that? I think it was a show that they played in Oklahoma City, and there was this guy that had Kiss makeup. Yeah. And you know, Dave Grohl likes to bring people up.
Yep, I've seen the one where he brings up this kid that they play Metallica.
Yeah,
and
then there's that one, and then there's the Kiss Guy though. He comes up and grabs a guitar and come to find, I mean, Kiss Guy. Actually, I think it was in Austin. It might have been in Austin. But Kiss Guy's an up and coming music. I mean, the dude was just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, there was absolutely incredible.
There was the little girl who was like 10 that challenged Dave Grohl to the drama.
Yeah, I can't remember her name. Her name started with an R.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he brought her out, and she was incredible. He does it all the time. Billy Joe Armstrong with Green Day used to do that all the time too.
Yeah.
Billy Joe and I spit on each other a number of times one night.
Oh hell, really?
Yeah.
So the best. Being in Alaska, it's hard to see good shows. Probably the best.
You don't have much of a choice.
It's not. The best show, I think. Well, the Foo Fighters were fucking phenomenal. But I used to go. I dated a trash can in Kansas City. So.
I can only. I bet you I can get. Did you go to Knuckleheads?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay, because that's a live venue in Kansas City.
Maybe. Was it a small? So
they have great music there.
Yeah, so we ended up at a Dropkick Murphys show.
Oh, I bet that's where it was at. I bet it was at Knuckleheads.
I ended up on stage with the Dropkick Murphys as they sang "Going Down to Boston." It was funny because we were.
How did that happen?
Well, so it's funny. There was a row of dudes in the front, and then it was us. It was general admission, and I'm not tall. I'm not like a tiny woman, but I'm not huge.
Right.
And so I was one of the few women up front, and the show was over or getting to be over, and they started like pulling. And I get it. It was women that they were pulling on stage, and. I was like, I put my hand out, and that security guard was like,
up you went.
I was in my head. I was like, I know where we parked.
Right.
I'll find you later.
Or maybe not.
He kept an eye on me. He was trying to be good, and but yeah, I was like on stage, and I was just remember sitting there going, holy shit! Like, okay, I've been on stage with Vanilla Ice. I was like,
oh wow,
14-year-old
Rob
Summer.
Van Winkle.
Whoop, whoop. He played adult prom in Anchorage.
No shit.
10, 12 years ago. And
damn.
I was like, oh, hell yes, I want to do adult prom.
You know what's crazy? He's got like a DIY show now.
Yeah,
He's
he
like
does.
A builder. I saw him open up for the Deftones at the Hard Rock in Vegas.
That would be badass.
And that was when he went from doing his whole whatever you call it, the ice when he kind of went like hardcore.
Yeah.
You know, it was more like a metal band that he was. You know, it was fun. Yeah. I mean, I've always felt bad for that guy. I mean, fucking Suge Knight held his ass off a goddamn balcony. I mean, he was. I mean. That's the last motherfucker you want holding you off a balcony, Suge Knight, because he don't give a shit.
He'll drop you.
He just got time added onto his sentence too.
Well, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness to like Vanilla Ice, I truly believe like he's had his 2 hits. I think like in the when we were in like 8th, 9th grade, but like he paved the way a little bit for like Eminem and
Sure he did.
And doesn't get the credit that I think he deserves for that.
Right, and I think that he was, they used him. The record companies used him. I mean, and now with the way music is going, and especially with the ability to just put whatever out that you want, you can produce your own shit. Like, I don't know if you listen to Tom McDonald. That's who I was playing earlier. And his girl Nova Rockefeller, she produces. I mean, she does all the, like they alternate. Like she's an artist as well. And then Brandon Hart, I play a lot of his music on here because they let me use it without copyright infringement.
Wow. Okay.
And they're really cool cats, but they do it all themselves, right? Like they don't have a record label that they're.
It's like Billie Eilish, her and her brother.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And that's cool that you can do that now.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why they've, I think that's why, Tom McDonald has risen to the place where he's at. And I mean, you're able, I mean, the first band I think that probably did that was Sublime. Sublime was one of the first ones when they started Skunk Records. And they signed Slightly Stupid, which, I'm rocking the Slightly Stupid. What's up, Kyle? What's up, Miles? Motherfuckers. Fucking last time I saw Kyle, man, we were at a reggae fest and I was back where I shouldn't have been, I guess.
I think they played Salmon Fest too, by the way. I'm not entirely sure.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I think so. I could be wrong.
Yeah, Kyle is such a cool dude. I'm sitting there with my ex-wife and we're smoking a joint back and we're like back where the bands are unloading at this big, huge festival, Cali Roots in Monterey, California. And all of a sudden I look over and there's Carl Denson, there's Miles, there's Kyle, there's Rimo, all the dudes. And Kyle just comes running up and he's like a spider monkey, jumps on me. He's like giving me his fucking bear hug, and I'm like, what's up, dog? And he takes a hit of the joint or whatever. And I'm like, hey, dude, I'm like, I don't want to be a fucking gaper here, but I'm like, can I get a picture with you, man? And
right.
He's like, fuck yeah, man, fuck yeah. And so he's sitting there between my wife and I, and at that venue, it's like a suck hole for cell phones. Like, if you keep your phone on, it just drains it. So I pull my phone out and I'm going to do the gaper selfie, which I hate doing, and it's dead. And I'm like, fuck.
Of course.
And my wife's phone, it's dead. And I look at Kyle and I'm like, dude, you got to take the photo, dog, and he's like, all right, man, takes a picture and he's like, give me your phone number, Mike. And I'm like, okay. So I give him my phone number and I'm like, there's no way that Kyle McDonald is gonna send me this photo. He's like, dude, I'll send. I got you, man. And he's like, we got to go on though. And I said, yeah, we're gonna be right there up front, man. And I'm just sitting there thinking, man, that sucked. I was like, that was a good opportunity to have a nice photo with somebody. And sure enough, the next day I wake up in the hotel and my phone goes off, and he sent the photo.
That's
like,
badass.
That's cool as shit. Man, what a good guy. And I hit him back up. I was like, dude, thanks, man. I was like, not many people will do that. And I can use their music too. I hit them up and, because this YouTube shit, I mean, they get real weird about copyright infringement. They tried to get me on one of their songs. I played one of their songs and they, I got hit with the infringement and I talked to their manager and was like, hey dude, come on, man. I was like, you guys know me. It's like, he's like, oh, we'll take it off. Don't worry. You can use whatever you want, anything. I'm like, oh, right on. So
that Celebration of Life I was telling you about, we got hit with a copyright infringement for An Amazing Grace.
Oh God. Who's got the copyright on that? Jesus?
I don't know, but
nobody fuck with the Jesus.
We got dinged for using and
if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Yeah, talk about pressure. This was a friend of mine. He was killed in a plane crash a month and a half ago or so.
Oh, fuck.
He was, wonderful man, and he very well known, very connected in Alaska. Like Lisa Murkowski we lost a great friend today on her senator page. And the lieutenant governor was at his funeral. Well, because of COVID and everything, not everybody could attend. And so he was on the board of directors for my employer. And so through some weird set of circumstances, I got appointed tech director for the funeral. And he was a close friend of mine. And then suddenly I'm in the front row with his fucking family. And this man was there's kind of with his friends, fucking Derek. And I just remember sitting there not wanting to fuck up this celebration of life.
Right.
And I've got his mother and father and brother and sister and kids. And I've got to swap between the live feed, and the mom wanted like hymnals to play on the screen, and I was using OBS.
And OBS is a fucking nightmare. That's what I'm going through right now.
Yeah, and I'm still sad about him dying in the plane crash.
Yeah, you're dealing with emotions, and then you've got all this pressure.
And and I can see the stream's got like 400 people watching. And so I was just like,
oh my God,
manipulating 2 computers. And I just remember sitting there thinking, Derek, I know for a fact you're getting great joy wherever you have ended up. You are getting an absolute
laughing your ass off.
Sitting here dealing with this for you.
Yeah, sitting there just laughing.
And that's, you got to take humor, and even in the darkest moments, there's still the opportunity to find humor. Well, and I rolled with it, but it was just like.
And that's the thing too with death is that we've all got it coming.
Yeah, that's the one guarantee in life.
Nobody gets out. We all punch the same ticket at the end of the day, and that's what I always have a hard time with, people that are just always after this, this monetary pursuit of, thinking that that's going to bring you happiness. And some of the most miserable people I know on this planet are people that have fuck you money.
Yep.
People that look at it and be like, God, if I had that, I could be, but they're just like, wait a minute, look at them. They're miserable. They hate one another. They fight all the time. Nothing means shit to them. It's like, and underneath it all, they still have the same lonely, fucked up existence that the rest of us do, regardless of. And then you go and you see the guy busking for change on the corner with his guitar.
Happy as fucker.
And he's having a great time. And you watch the guy in the 3-piece fucking Armani suit fucking walk by him all in a hurry,
Yeah.
Get up to his meeting up there in that building. And it's like, dude, what are you doing, man? It's like you ain't even living. You're just, you're going through these motions of what you expect everybody else, what everybody else expects of you. Our ideas and our model of what we consider to be success is so skewed and fucked up.
Yep. When my ride on this merry-go-round is over, like, I'm not going to be taking my collections with me when I am laying in my deathbed. And I will have more value in the memories of a life well lived.
And that's it, and when we go, what are we left with on your dying day, the day that you leave? And I don't know. I mean, everything I've seen with myself is probably not going to be it's going to be a bloody fucking mess, I'm sure. But if my mom told me, like, when my grandmother passed last year, that she was sitting there and I was trying to get down to the hospital, right? And I didn't make it in time. Like, she called, she said things went south real quick because I had an appointment to go down there the next morning. She said she had like 2 days left.
Yeah.
And so I'd made it because they would only let 3 family members in at a time because, obviously last year, And so she calls me, tells me things went south. I fucking run out, jump in the truck as quick as I can, and I haul ass down there, and I pull in, and my mom's like hits me up on the phone. She's like, "Where?" I said, "I just parked," and she's like, "She's gone," and I was like, "I'm not coming in," and she's like, "Well, don't you want to come see her?" I said, "No," I said, "I can already see her. I don't need to," She's like, "Well, I want to come out and talk to you," and I said, "Okay." So she comes out, and she was like, when she went, she goes, I leaned over and she goes, "I'm not going to tell you what I said to her." She goes, "But I whispered something in her ear," and she goes, she looked up into the corner and she smiled and a tear rolled down her cheek and she went, "Oh," like a sense of, like, oh,
okay, here we go. Yeah.
It'll come back, maybe.
I can still hear you.
Oh God, this thing did it again. Come on. Not a worthless piece. No, I'm echoing and everything else.
I'm not picking up an echo.
Well, that's good. I just had to turn it back on. There we go. Are we back?
Yep.
All right. No, anyway, she said she looked up in the corner like she saw something. And DMT, I don't know if you're familiar with DMT.
I've heard of it, but I'm not too familiar.
It's what they call the spirit molecule. And basically your body, you have it inside of you, and it's released when you're born and it's released when you die.
Oh, okay.
And it also comes off the bellies of toads in South America.
Oh, that's
and it comes off the acacia bush as well. So you can smoke it and you leave.
Sure.
Like for like
Go
15 minutes,
world.
You're not even you.
Yeah.
Like you don't exist anymore. You're gone. Like you smoke that shit, and I mean literally, and you're off.
Sure.
And you run into these characters called the machine elves, and they jump in and out of you, and you lose complete sense of even being. It's hard to explain, but you're not you.
Okay.
Like, you're everything, right? Like you're one with.
Yeah.
I mean, when Mike Tyson did it, it changed his life. He lost his ego. I mean, and when I did it the first time, it was the same thing. Like psychedelics are crazy, you know. Like you come to realize that there is this whole other thing out there that you don't even have a clue about. I mean, we live in this three-dimensional existence, and I mean, to be able to take some kind of a chemical and go to these other places that, I mean, I don't mess with the shit anymore, but I certainly did when I was younger. And I mean, I was trying to come up with answers for everything, you know. But they say that when you die, that's what hits you when you go out, is like that you get hit with the DMT.
Sure.
And
and
the first time I had COVID, I've had it twice. But the first time was really bad. I mean, it didn't last long. It was like 2 days, 48 hours. And I don't remember how long I quit breathing, but I was told that I had quit breathing for over 5 minutes, and I'd left my body. I'd floated away. And one thing I've always thought is like, because it's just me and my son, I've always been like, dude, you can't like take an early exit, right? You got to be here for a kid, right? And at that point in time, I mean, I was so fatigued and so out of it that I couldn't even get up out of bed to use the restroom or anything. And I just remember.
I had it once and I was miserable.
And I mean, the fatigue for me was the worst. I didn't have like the cough, nothing like that. It was just fatigue. It was just like I was just dead almost, and I just floated away. And
for me, it was fever.
Yeah, I don't even know if I had that going on. I mean, but I remember looking down at myself. And the person that was there with me, she was hitting me in the chest with both, like yelling at me to breathe again. And I'm looking down, and I remember as I'm floating away, I'm thinking, oh, there's no panic, there's no distress. I'm like, this is what it is.
Yeah. Have you read the book by Mary Roach? There's an author, Mary Roach, talks about like out of body experiences. She wrote the book Stiffed. That was her most famous one.
Yeah.
But there's the spiritual one that I think you would probably appreciate, but I can't think of the name of it.
But yeah, it was bizarre. I mean, I saw myself. I'm looking at myself. I mean, I was, and then when I realized that I was being slammed in the chest and somebody was telling me to breathe, and I just went, and it was like, and I came back with, and I was like, what's the problem? You know?
She's like, you scared the shit
you haven't
out of
taken a breath in over 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh, you know, and from that point on, I was fine. Like, it was like, that was the breaking point of it. But it was funny because my buddy, I talked to him last week. I said, dude, I haven't heard from you. What's up, man? What's been going on? He's like, oh man, he goes, I got COVID. And he goes, I almost died. And he goes, I went through the same thing that you did. He goes, I was leaving my body. He goes, there was a nurse there that happened to grab my foot. He goes, when I had left, he goes, I was looking at myself and she grabbed my foot, and he goes, that physical contact turned me around, and I came back. And I was like, that's weird, dude. It's like, I mean, who knows? We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're doing here. We don't have,
everyone dies alone when it
What's
comes
that?
down to it. Everyone dies alone.
That's exactly right. You know,
surrounded in a room full of people, everyone dies alone.
That's exactly right. You know you were born, you know you're going to die, but what's in between is mine. That's an old Pearl Jam lyric. And I mean, there's nothing more true and that's the thing. Yeah. You know, and it's funny because like back in the day, you know, like, especially in Norse cultures, a lot of times like the Jarl, the leader of the village or whatever, they would, a lot of times they would like sacrifice like a young person and like throw them in the grave with them to have somebody go with them. I mean
that happens in a lot of cultures.
Yeah, I mean, pretty crazy. Yeah, look at like Egyptian cultures and stuff. The way
Yep, in
they
India,
buried the pharaohs. And, yeah,
wives
yeah.
will throw
The
themselves on
Ganges
the
River.
funeral
Yeah, the
pyre.
Ganges River.
Yep.
Yeah,
River, yep.
that's like the river of death. I mean,
yeah, and this like I gotta say like I mean other than my children, like if I were to lose my children, sure I could throw myself into like a lake of fire. There's like no one else on earth that I'm gonna like jump in a
even
funeral
then, though,
pyre.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's funny, I mean, you talk about like existentialism and taking everything so serious, and it's really not. I mean, what's so serious about all this?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's really. I mean, you go back to like the Greek definition of comedies, and I mean, that's kind of what they I mean, comedy, tragedy. I mean, that's life. It's a comic, tragic existence.
Yeah, like
and I mean, nobody gets out alive. And I mean, that's why I sit there and wonder, like, what does it take to have the mentality to try and be the president? Why would you want to do that? What in the fuck is going on in your mind that's what you want to do? I mean, I put a podcast up yesterday about like me running for Senate, just as a joke.
Right.
I mean,
I think you should. I think you should.
It'll never happen, but I think it would be hilarious. But the thing is I would have the backs of people, right? Like I would be bought and paid for. I've got a political science minor, and I study this shit. I watch what goes on politically, and I pay attention because I think it affects us. And I'm quite frankly, I'm amused by it as well. It's so funny. It is a comedy. I mean, you sit there and you watch these characters between the Trumps and the Bidens and Nancy Pelosi. I mean, talk about a comedy of errors. I mean, and Mitch McConnell, Mr. Peanut Head. I mean, I mean,
I think he's a turtle.
What drives these people to do this? Why do they think that?
Power.
I mean,
Power.
Right, but for what? For what? To hand it down? To do what with? To gain all these? I mean, one of my favorite lyrics from Widespread Panic is on a song called "Bust It Big," and it says, "Beware of the man that makes monuments to himself."
For sure.
And I mean, that whole concept of like, if you're a president, then all of a sudden you get a library that's named after you. Why would you want that?
Yeah, I mean, but you can also make the same like monuments to themselves, like across a variety of spectrums. Look at sports.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And that's all
like
ego. It's
Hollywood.
ego. Yeah. It's all ego. Yeah. It's about this necessity to, I don't know if it's about, some kind of an identity crisis or what, but I know that, and that comes back to the whole DMT thing. When you do that, when you smoke that and you leave and then you come back and you realize that you're just the same as everybody else, and we're all one. We're all one. We're all the same. And then what gives you the motivation to say, I'm going to make these rules? I mean, my mantra is do no harm. I mean, I think those three words right there, those 3 words, I think they sum it up.
Yep.
I mean, out of my entire existence, those are the 3 words that I've found that really, I mean, if you break it down to anything that you're about, anything that you're trying to do or not do, I mean, that's about it's about not doing any harm. I mean,
yeah.
The idea of land ownership, of me saying, well, this is mine. I own it. I'm going to be on this billions of years old planet for maybe 80 years if I'm lucky, but this is mine. Sure. You stay out of my grass. Fucking kids.
It's like you buy salt with an expiration date.
Yeah, it's so fucking stupid. It's crazy. I mean, to sit there and even talking about like borders and boundaries and, I mean, like, what? I mean, you live in Wyoming, you go down south, right? You take one step and you sit there and light up a joint and smoke it. Take a step back, you're going to jail.
You're yeah.
And there's no definitive, I mean, why?
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, what the fuck is going on here? Like, you live down south of the border and you cross into Texas and you're illegal now. Now you're an illegal person.
You're an illegal alien.
Yeah. Well,
horrible term.
What makes a person illegal? Yeah. According to who?
Especially when it's the white people on this side of the border saying,
and we took
home.
The land. We took the land from Mexico.
From the people that of the, if you're going to track generations back, they're more entitled to. Yeah.
And there's I don't think there's necessarily an entitlement to the land. I mean, I don't think you can just go and say like, somebody's put their time and effort into building a home. You can't just go and take that. But it's if somebody's got 23,000 fucking acres and you cross the fence or whatever, I mean,
they can shoot you.
Yeah. You really need that for what? How's it yours? It's like, you're not even going to be here. I mean, I go out past my place and there's fences all over the place. And if there's not a sign, I go through fences. I put the gate back up. But if there's no sign, I go through it. I don't care. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I remember doing that.
Catch me if you can, I mean, it's like, I'm not out there, causing havoc. I'm just out there looking for dinosaur bones and fossils and shit, and trying to figure it all out. And once you look at the land and you look at the story that it has to tell, and you realize how infinitesimally small we all are, and it's just like, how in the fuck? How are we to say this is mine and not, this land is my land, this land is your land? What happened to that? Where'd that go? I don't know. The whole idea is just crazy. And it all comes down, I guess, to it's all politicized and that's what mankind is a fucking mess.
What's that?
Mankind is a mess.
Oh yeah, we're not really a very good species.
We're pretty fucking dumb. We're the only species on this planet that's uncomfortable.
It's probably a pretty
within a matter of degrees of temperature change, we are not surviving.
Correct.
Like, you go out in the wintertime, and out here I go out on, when I go out on my bike, I've got layers of this, that, and the other thing, all Burton AK shit that's 2L Gore-Tex and,
I can start my car from inside my house.
Yeah. You're one of the lucky. Half the time I don't
even have to go outside. I can walk the 12
You should have that in Alaska.
In that house, and then get into my warm ass car.
That's a good thing. I have to leave mine plugged in overnight or it won't start.
Yeah.
Fucking diesel, that fucking thing. Good God.
Sure.
But you think about it. It's like we're uncomfortable. Like, you go out and you go out in the wintertime in Wyoming, it's 20 below, the wind's blowing sideways, and you look out and there's just cattle. They're just out there. Yeah. There's deer running around, antelopes. It doesn't fade us. If we're within 5 degrees of our, and it changes for everybody. Some people like it at 80. Some people like 75. Some people like 70. Gets down to 65. Oh boy, sure, it's cold today, isn't it?
Well, maybe in Wyoming.
And we can't survive. But the thing, anywhere you go, though, I couldn't, you take all my clothing and my boots off my feet and everything from me, and you send me out tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck. With nothing?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Nothing? Yep. I got no fire source. I'm dead.
You're dead in an hour. In an hour. You've got an hour.
I know how to break into a house, I guess.
Right? Well,
you know what I mean, though? We are uncomfortable. Yeah. We're and everybody always complains about we are not supposed to be here, I don't think. I honestly don't, because every other species is just fine.
We take other species skin.
Right. Yeah, and wear it. We wear other species skin masks.
Let me have your.
And we drink their milk. Their milk. That's a problem I have too. Is milk. I try to explain it to people about milk. I'm like, dude, how fucked up? Dude, don't drink that fucking milk.
Although I'm not giving up cheese.
Huh?
I'm not giving
cheese,
up
though. I know I can't give up cheese. I love cheese. Cheese is milk, isn't it? I'm a hypocrite. I'm such a fucking hypocrite. God, I got a log of provolone in my fridge like this that I got there.
Yeah. Give me a week.
I love it.
I'm good.
but I won't drink milk. God, I am a fucking hypocrite. Listen to me. What a dickhead.
Well, it's you know, we.
But
we
it
did
is weird to
something
think
fancy
about
with the
you're
milk.
drinking the milk of another species. You know, it's like.
At the same time, we're weirdly weird about drinking the milk of our own species. Like,
Right. Yeah, that's taboo, right? Like a woman can't breastfeed their child in public without it being like, ooh,
and it's
shame on you. You know?
Ooh, for shame.
It's
Cover
like you're
yourself.
doing something natural. Oh my.
Yeah. Tits are for men, not to feed a baby.
Yeah, right. Why do men like tits? Because they were fed off of them.
Exactly.
It goes back to I mean that's a whole thing. It goes. I mean that's a whole
we're
existential
just,
thing, right?
we're just we're full of shit. Is what
We're
we are.
retarded. Really, sorry to use the R word, but we're dumb.
Yeah.
We're so dumb. Our perceptions are so fucking stupid. I mean, and then I mean, we worry about bathrooms and fucking. I mean, it's like who gives a fucking shit?
Yeah, when I go into the bathroom, I am not paying attention to what goes on in the next stall.
I could not care less. I don't care who's in there. I don't care what. Don't stick your head under my stall.
I won't stick my head under yours. Exactly.
I mean, just stay over there and do whatever it is you got to do. I don't care.
Exactly.
People get so freaked out about it. If that guy goes in there, my daughter, it's like, trans people. I don't really. I've not seen a pattern in any kind of sexual abuse towards minors with anybody that's trans.
It's straight people who.
Right.
When people are like, oh, somebody's going to pretend to be a trans person.
So they can go in there and,
Yeah, but what that argument is essentially, the crux of that argument is still a straight person who's doing the dirty. It's not the trans person.
Right. Well, then you end up with a guy like that politician from Idaho that was doing the secret knock there in the Minneapolis airport or whatever,
Oh, God. And who was the one that put his foot under the stall?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I mean, and then they're the ones that are up there and like that Ted, what was his name? Ted, that preacher from Colorado. It was completely homophobic and preached how, homosexuals were all going to burn in hell and this and that. And he's out there doing meth off of male prostitutes' butt cheeks and shit.
Yeah, the ones who bitch the loudest are the ones that I'm like, you got skeletons in your closet.
Yeah, you got special issues.
Yep. There is something that's going to come out about you. Well, Denny Hastert.
That's exactly it. That's oh God, piece of shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Denny Hastert. But then there was the other one that would you put your foot under the stall in the airport. It meant
it was the guy from Idaho. It was. I hesitate to say the name because if I say the wrong name, then I'm obviously slandering somebody. But it was a guy that
the whole
was,
Liberty University where it was the Jerry Falwell Jr.
Oh yeah.
He was fucking the pool boy with his wife.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
That's the thing. That is my biggest issue that I have had with politics and Republicans, where the moral majority and about all no sex before marriage and celibacy and all this bullshit, and then become these crazy people about a man who pays a prostitute right after his wife has a baby and grab her by the pussy. I'm like, so was all this moral majority ethics bullshit just bullshit?
It always has been. It always has been.
It just to me it was
it falls on both sides of the coin.
Oh, for sure.
Because I mean, everybody, you have, the whole Me Too movement, right? But then you have Tara Reid comes out and talks about what happened with her and Biden. And I'm pretty good at reading body language, and that woman was not lying.
No,
and they brushed that right under the table. But yet,
and that's the issue.
But yet, Blasio, you could tell she was being coached, and I'm not on one side or the other. I get blamed every day of being either neocon or liberal or whatever. And I take that as a compliment because I'm not on either side whatsoever. I think that it's absolutely stupid. I think that both sides of the coin are It's designed to keep us under control. It's designed to keep us, fighting with one another, and it's designed to keep us from being united, because the biggest scare tactic that you could possibly present to the establishment would be, people on either side, getting like me and my best friend are the antithesis of what they want, right? Mm-hmm. Right? White dude from fucking Wyoming, black guy from fucking LA, right?
Yeah.
And but we go into each other's neighborhoods, and I don't give a shit. It's funny for them to take, if we're going on a beer run, to go into Compton, and I get to go in and get the junior market. I don't care.
Yeah.
I've been in fucking federal prison. I don't give a shit about walking into a fucking store. I don't care what neighborhood it's in. It's not going to bother me one bit, and that's what terrifies them, and that's the only reason they maintain power. And then we all want to argue with one another about what color hat we're wearing. And you got Juicy Smollett fucking hiring 2 Nigerian brothers. And come on.
That was bad.
Come on, Juicy.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was bad.
And the sad thing is racist shit happens. People
sure
really are targeted because they're black or they're Hispanic or they're this or that. Yeah. And when you fake it, it's a disservice.
It is.
To the whole, to when people legitimately are assaulted or discriminated against.
It certainly
is a thing that happens.
Yep, it is. Absolutely. And then to, now his attorney is talking about appealing it. And then you see a case like the Rittenhouse kid,
Mm-hmm. I have mixed emotions on that one. That one's hard for me.
But he wasn't there he was there to try and help people. Did it play out in a way that it should? In hindsight, if you could Monday morning quarterback it, I bet that kid wouldn't go and do that again.
I will say, he has come out and said nothing. There was no racial. Yeah, he has come out and said, post interviews, non-conviction interviews, where they were like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome," and he's like, "No, it's not. Right. I wish this didn't happen." And the guns. And he said that he
supports BLM.
Yeah, and so.
And I do too.
And here's the thing here's where I really take issue with part of the Rittenhouse thing. It's twofold. One, they're using the example of his past crimes of the people who were killed. He didn't know that, and so it's like, and it's like using those past crimes. People can do crimes and become better people after the fact, and. So it's like using those crimes to any crime that in the 9/11, any criminal who died in 9/11 of the 3,000 people, suddenly then using that, we've got, child molester on the 7th floor, so it justifies crashing an airplane into a building. And so that bugged me, where they were like using these previous criminal histories as justification for him to shoot. And then the other thing that bugs me is, and I forget the young woman's name, but there's a young woman who did the same exact thing in the same state, not the same exact thing, but she was defending herself. And now they're like, oh, we should look at her case. And it's like, get black woman. And it's like, well, you weren't worried about her a year ago. She didn't get this, but it was this white boy who suddenly is getting penalized, and now he got off, so maybe we should give her case a consideration. And the thing that bugs me is everybody should get that consideration. It shouldn't matter, like one high profile case suddenly sheds light, and I'll take it when the high profile case sheds light on these lesser known situations.
Well, and I think that's a way that you should look at it too, is that granted there are huge disparities in this country, and I don't deny that whatsoever. And as far as the crimes go, with the first situation in Rittenhouse's deal, you've got Rosenbaum, right? And as we've discussed about it, he went up on, there was 11 charges, 9 to 11. The guy was not a good dude. Okay, so in the night prior to him being shot by Rittenhouse, he told Rittenhouse if he saw him alone, he was going to fucking kill him.
See, I've not heard that.
He made that threat to him the night prior to that, because Rittenhouse, the dude lit a dumpster on fire. Rittenhouse ran off, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and put out the fire.
Was it they had a previous relationship? relationship, or it was just like they happened to be in the proximity?
There was no prior. No, he didn't. He never met the guy. The guy had actually just got out of a mental institute. He was carrying like the bag from the mental institution with him. He'd gone out to his ex-girlfriend's house. She told him he couldn't be there. He'd actually walked like 4 miles one way, 4 miles back to get into the middle of all this shit going on. So the night prior to him getting shot, he'd threatened Rittenhouse, and he told, okay, so Rittenhouse is 17. This man's 36. He's been in prison. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he's a 36-year-old convicted, not only a child molester, but he's also a child rapist. Mm-hmm. He's 36, this kid's 17, and obviously you see the kid hasn't even shed his baby fat. So this dude at 36, sure. I can guarantee you that he is not a individual that Rittenhouse is going to be able to take on one-on-one.
Sure. Is he the one with the skateboard or the other one?
That was the next guy, was the skateboard guy. But the first one, this Rosenbaum, right? He had threatened. He said, "If I see you by yourself, I'm going to fucking kill you." It's on tape. I mean, they played it in court. He was not a good man. Now, I am very sympathetic with what you're saying because, as I've already explained to you about my situation, I'm labeled as a violent criminal. You know me. I'm not a violent individual. I have the capacity. I have the capacity to be violent. I can. I mean, and I have. And when I've been forced to do so, I mean. I don't like doing it. I don't ever want it. I mean, but you have to back me into a corner. Now I feel like this kid was backed into a corner. This dude started chasing him. Rittenhouse tried to run. Mm-hmm. He got backed into a place where this guy's coming at him. He's 17. This guy's 36. And the dude I think he was borderline suicidal. I mean, I think he was one of those guys where he was on the verge of like suicide by cop type deal. Like he was out there in front of that one, that gas station, that ultimate gas station, and he's yelling, "Shoot me, N-word, shoot me, N-word." This is supposed to be a BLM protest. And you've got this white guy who is a convicted molester and rapist. Okay. Be that what it is.
Didn't know that.
But the fact of the matter is that he's sitting there and he's saying that. Okay. I mean, that's a word that would never come out of my mouth. Period.
For sure. Same.
And I've been in some of the most racist places that you can imagine, and I would never, ever, ever even think about saying that. Mm-hmm. And so he's hollering that, and so then they turn this into like it's some. I mean, I talked to friends of mine that are black at the time of the trial and everything, and they honestly thought that Rittenhouse had shot black people. They didn't realize that the three men the two that he killed, and then the one that he shot in the arm, that they were white men. Mm-hmm. And so that's how things get fucked up and misconstrued. I mean, this kid, I think he went out there with the best of intentions. Now, like I said, looking back on it, and he's said this himself, that he would never go back and do that again.
Hindsight's 2020.
Right. You can't Monday morning quarterback it. But the kid's out there, he's trying to help people. He wants to be a medic. He wants to be a nurse. He's walking into these scenarios, and what really irks me the most about it is I'm like, where are the men in this community? How are you because those were riots. Those were not peaceful protests. I'm all for protesting.
My 17-year-old will not be participating. I will not be driving my 17-year-old across state lines to participate in that shit.
Right. And the whole state lines thing the whole state lines thing I think is kind of moot because he lived 1 mile
was it?
into
and
Illinois, and he didn't have the firearm was not there. Yeah, the whole thing was irresponsible. I think.
My point being,
I agree.
I'm not going to drive 3 miles with.
You're not going to drive. I'm not going to drive my kid downtown. Right? No, you're not.
It's like no fucking way.
Yeah. No, exactly. And sure. I mean, you can look, and I agree wholeheartedly. I would never do the same thing. I certainly wouldn't. I mean, that just doesn't. Yeah. It's. But you got emotions that fall into everything, and I mean the kid's out there. He's scrubbing graffiti off of the high school. I mean he's got his medic bag. He's going into these scenarios. He's saying, "I'm friendly. Does anybody need medical?" He's trying to help. Mm-hmm. I don't think there was bad intentions on the part of the kid. It just turned into a really bad deal because you've got people that are hijacking a movement, and they're looking at opportunity. These people that riot and show up at these scenarios, they're looking for an opportunity to behave badly, basically, and then take their actions and throw them off on, we were doing it because of this. Well, the whole thing that they're writing about was a guy who had a felony warrant went and got his kids illegally, got into a rental car that wasn't his, was carrying a knife and the police telling him to put the knife down, and he reaches under the seat of the vehicle. What's
this was
the cop going to do?
It was like the minivan shooting.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And the guy had a knife in his hand. They were telling him to drop the knife. He had already had a past history of violence. He'd had a past history of sexual assault on the mother of the children. He obviously didn't care about the children because they're in the back seat of the car, and he's brandishing a knife. And the police had to show up because he had a felony warrant, and the mother of the children called the police, and they don't have a choice but to show up. I guarantee those guys didn't want to show up on that scene. You know?
I don't remember. I forget the name of the man who ended up dead.
He didn't die.
Or is he paralyzed? He's paralyzed.
He's in a wheelchair, but he didn't die. Paralyzed. And that's the other thing. The media came off and said that he had died. He didn't die. Now, did he get shot excessively? He got shot 7 times. Now that's probably a little bit much. But put yourself in the position. I mean, I'm not playing sides or anything like that. But I'm saying that even myself, if I put myself in that scenario and I'm doing something like that, if I'm getting into a vehicle that doesn't belong to me and I'm carrying a knife and I'm taking a child that isn't mine, and an ex calls the police and I'm not supposed to be there, and I'm walking right past him with a knife in my hand, I mean, you know, regardless of the fact that I'm a white dude, I'm probably going to get shot if I reach underneath the seat and they're telling me to stop, drop the knife, get down on the ground, and I don't listen to them. Trust me, I've been in scenarios where I've had to get down on the ground numerous times where prison riots and shit like that go off, and you get down on the ground and you put your hands on your head, and you know, like, it's like, it doesn't matter what color this is. It's like, you know, I mean, if you're not trying to end up dead, you know, I mean, that's a situation where you comply, and even that guy that they were writing about, I mean, when it was all happening, he came out and said that he wished that they would stop.
Yeah.
He knew that he was in the wrong, and he made sentiments that he wished that it would all quit. You know, so I mean, it's just one of those situations where a little conversation across the lines would have solved everything. You know, I mean, it really would have. You know, and you've got these people that want to hijack this stuff and play this. They're not even being social justice warriors because they obviously don't care. When you're going into a town like Kenosha, it's the size of Billings, and you're burning down people's businesses. I mean, I talk about do no harm. I mean, you have to respect a person's. I mean, those guys that had those car lots there, they put their whole livelihood into that. Who had the right to go in there? Did they do anything to cause this? No, they didn't. Did all the businesses that were burned down and looted and you know, people that were hurt by this thing? I mean, it's just you know, it's pathetic, I think. I mean, they've done it in Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis. I mean, all these cities where this stuff has happened, and I can understand the frustration that people do have because there is a huge disparity. I mean, there is. There's no doubt about it. But so like you're saying in Rittenhouse's case, I mean, if they go back and they look at this other female's case over this, and that to me, although the initial consequence of what happened did that person a disservice, perhaps them going back and looking at it, maybe, you know, I mean,
yeah, like I said, I'll
change things. Sure. Yeah. And I mean, if we can right wrongs, I mean, yeah, people have been done wrong. I mean, you just compile it and add it up but I mean, because that has happened, you still have the opportunity to make the next thing right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like the whole idea of forgiveness. I mean, okay, we made some mistakes, but we're not going to get it wrong again. And I mean, does it make that right for the other individual? No, of course not. Of course not. I mean,
yeah. And like,
it's a difficult thing.
There's the author, I forget her name. She wrote Lovely Bones.
Yeah.
And she had, you know, she was raped 20 years ago or whatever. Mm-hmm. And some man did 15 years, and a movie producer figured out this guy didn't do it.
Yep.
And then, you know, people get released from prison and there's no recourse. Like there was a guy in Missouri who was was just released. It was determined that he didn't commit the crime. And Missouri's laws are like, you don't get any monetary, you've had your whole life stolen, and
there's no way to repay that.
There's no way to repay that, and
a guy like that is just happy to be free.
Yeah,
really.
But now it's like,
right.
a GoFundMe provided him some wages, not wages, but like.
And that's the thing. There's no way that you can give any amount of money.
Yeah.
You can't give that back. I mean, I was in with guys that had been locked up from 18 and they got out at 45, 47, 48 years old.
Yeah.
You can't, there's no, there's no compensation for that because some of the guys that I was in with that got out around the same time as me, they've been in 25, 30 years. And think about the way the world changes.
Well, and
it changed for me in the short time I was in, and it wasn't that long. But some of those guys, they came out. Cell phone, they didn't even know what a cell phone was.
It went from, the antenna TV to streaming services, right. And that's where, for me, I'm against the death penalty because it can't be done.
No, I'm too.
Now, don't get me wrong. You fuck up with my kids and hurt my children, I will flay you alive. But
and that's a different scenario too. You look at what happened. There was a guy in Texas a few years back that
he didn't want to kill the guy.
Yeah, but he caught the guy and he was raping his daughter. And he hit him once so hard. And I understand that because when you're in the middle of that, I'm the same way. When I get in it, I literally lose consciousness almost.
Sure.
And I'll hit somebody so fucking hard that I don't even know what I'm doing. And I can understand how you can kill. And that's what he did. He killed the guy, but the guy was raping his daughter.
He called 911.
He called the police.
Yeah. He's like, hurry
and that's
up
the thing with Rittenhouse too. After he shot Rosenbaum, he tried to administer help to the guy, but the mob was coming after him and they're yelling, cranium him, brain him. That kid, for being 17, I think that he showed a lot of restraint in his behavior. The one guy hit him with the edge of the skateboard, and I've got my old skateboard hanging up on my wall over here because it's this is the last 151 ever made. But if I were to take that thing and swing it with that edge at somebody, I could kill somebody very easily. If I take it and swing the flat of it, it's going to leave a welt, but I'm not going to kill somebody with that. That dude swung that thing up twice, tried to take the kid's gun. You watch the video, and that dude was pulling on that kid's gun, and the gun was way out here. And, he just let off one shot. And he had that whole mob coming after him. They were going to, if he had not had that, granted, had he not been there, none of it would have happened, right? But you can't Monday morning quarterback it.
But he also looks like an active shooter.
Well, not necessarily, because if he was active, he would have been firing off more shots because he had a 30-round magazine. So when he was running, he was not shooting anybody else.
But
he wasn't trying to shoot. But he wasn't an active shooter. In my definition of that, it's somebody that goes into a scenario and they're just, they're just shooting anybody they see. This kid didn't do that. The only time that he fired off rounds was when he was attacked. He was attacked by a 36-year-old guy that just got out of prison.
They don't know that.
Another guy who'd been in and out of prison. And then the other guy came up with a 9mm that was an illegal handgun that he wasn't supposed to have, and he'd been in trouble. That Gabe Grosskreutz, he was a medic. Now, what's a medic out there doing with a fucking hand cannon in the middle of a riot? He should have been with Rittenhouse offering people help.
Rittenhouse, who was there as a medic, had a
right. But I think that granted, you can't sit there and but this guy was not out there helping people. The Grosskreutz, he had an illegal firearm.
And see, and
Rittenhouse's wasn't illegal.
I can see both sides to where if you see someone shooting, even if it's just not even an active shooter where it's just, repeated shots being taken, a single shot here, a single shot there, I can see in the world that we live in now that when people see someone shooting, some people are going to make an attempt to intervene.
I don't think that Grosskreutz was making an attempt to intervene, though.
But you talk about the crowd and coming after him. I can see that.
But he walked up to the guy with his hands up, and Rittenhouse didn't do a thing until that dude pulled his piece out. The guy walked up to Rittenhouse. He walked up to Rittenhouse like this.
Probably since I watched.
He walked up like this, and then He reaches down in his waistband and he pulls out that Glock 9 and he holds it, the classic gangster like that.
Yeah.
And Rittenhouse shoots his bicep off. Now, he could have taken a kill shot on him if he wanted to. He could have. He didn't.
Could have, for sure.
He incapacitated him. Now, that's showing restraint in my mind. When you got a guy, that guy's 29 years old, you're 17.
I completely agree.
The kid was trying to, he put himself in a bad situation. His parents put him in a bad situation because he's just a kid.
Yeah.
He's a minor out there and he's acting in an adult, very much warlike situation. And it was a really unfortunate thing. And that's my question is where, this doesn't come into being, I'm not being misogynistic or sexist or anything, but where are the men, right? Like if this is happening in my town, and I've got these Antifa people coming in and they're just looting and burning and rioting. You want to protest something? Fine. Peaceful protest. Hey, everybody has the right to do that. But when you start lighting people's property on fire and causing damage and havoc I don't see how you just sit in your house. Myself as a man, I'm not sitting in my house if that's going on.
Sure.
I don't care. I'm going out there, and this is going to stop, one way or another.
Well, what about I think there's definitely a definition of rioting that we probably both could agree on. But what about after Super Bowls and sports teams where cars get flipped over? That's not labeled rioting. It's the same damn behavior. And
it's ridiculous too. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl a few years back, they had to go and the city workers were lubing up the traffic lights because they knew people were going to tear them down. And you're exactly right. I 100% agree with you. The masses are asses. That's one thing that I've learned. The masses are fucking asses. And it doesn't matter. You throw a bunch of people in a group and get them going on something and it's it gains momentum and people don't even understand why they're doing what they're doing, but they're just it's that herd behavior.
Yeah.
And once it starts, it's hard to stop. Yeah, it's hard to stop once it starts. It is. It's and you got to look at the general population. And I'm sorry to say this, but the general population are 98% morons. People don't have conversations like we're having right now about this, right?
Yeah.
We're pretty much meeting in the middle and agreeing. We might have some different perceptions, but we're having a conversation. We're people who have had a conversation about these issues.
We're gonna. We need to run for president and vice president.
Okay. Yeah.
we'll be co-presidents.
I'll be your VP. I'll be the first lady. The first male first lady. Oh, yeah. Now we just need to come up with the funding for it. And that's what's crazy thing. You think about that. Think about the money. I looked into running for the Senate, right? The first thing you have to do is, number one, you have to be over 30. Number two, you have to be, living in the state where you're running. And then number three is you have to have raised $5,000 and invested that into your campaign. That's not that big of a deal, but you can't take your own tax.
Now, is that Wyoming's requirements?
That's a federal requirement, state to state. That's according to the Constitution. But you have to have raised that money.
$5,000.
So you have to get it. That's to announce your candidacy. You have to have raised $5,000 and then invested it in your campaign.
Okay.
To run for Senate. That's to start. Now, you and I both, think about some of the bigger states. Like if you're running as a senator in, say, California, right? California has 43, what do they have, 48 representatives? But if you're running for the Senate, that's 2 spots. So out of a state like California, to get those 2 spots, how much money do you think that takes to get a Senate position?
Either you pay it yourself or 2 people.
Well, you have to raise it though, and that's the thing is you have to show that you've raised it. You can only take a certain amount of.
Yeah, so it's $25. I thought it was $2,500 per person. So
right. But just to even announce your candidacy, that's where you have to start with it. Now, in a state like Wyoming, it would be easy to do. Because Wyoming is probably Well, Alaska's probably the same too. You guys have what, 2 senators, and you have one,
Yeah,
maybe 2
we have 3
representatives?
representatives, 2 senators, one.
Okay,
one,
you're just like Wyoming then.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, here it's easier to run for the Senate. You have 50% more chance of winning, I guess, because you only have 1 rep. And
Well,
you got Liz Cheney here, so Liz Cheney.
Yeah, state of Alaska now has ranked choice voting.
Really?
Yes. So we're the 2nd state in the nation to do ranked choice voting, I believe, behind Maine.
And that should be something that should be done. I'm behind that. I'm with it.
And so we haven't had an election yet where it's come into play, but the next, because it was just passed.
Right.
Barely passed. It was legit like 50.1% versus 49.9%, but it passed. And so it's going to be very interesting this next election. Like right now, all the political polls are like, okay, they're trying to ferret out,
right. And you can't trust any of that stuff either. It's going to
be a very interesting election year next year.
Yeah, well, it's going to get wild. It always does. It always does. And it's just so silly because, I mean, this is my proposition on the whole stupid fucking thing. All right. No more president. Okay. President, bye. Go away. All right. We got 50 states. We randomly pick 2 people from each state. Just randomly. Just a lottery. Okay. Right? Okay. And so, out of 50 states, that puts us at 100. And then we pick a random 101, right? So we can have
101 as far as
we can have a majority breaker if we got 50-50. Okay.
And then one,
which is essentially what that's essentially what the vice president does in the Senate right now. Yep. Anyhow, they're the tiebreaker. Yep. And you go in and you get a set salary. Your family gets taken care of. You're a business owner, whatever. We take care of that. You go in, you serve 2 years as a senator. You're done. You go back home. You're done. That's it. It's a random pick. It doesn't matter. No vote. No democracy is the stupidest fucking thing on the planet. I mean, because let's break it down. All right. Let's say that in my neighborhood, I'm riding around on my new fucking mountain bike. Everybody's jealous because I got this badass. And they decide, fucking file over there shouldn't have that mountain bike. Let's have a vote. They decide, we're going to take your fucking bike. Majority rule. Right? Like we all voted that you shouldn't have the bike. It's our bike now. And then they come and they take it from you. Mm-hmm. That's democracy.
That's taxes.
Yeah, sure. It's silly. It's silly. It's mob rule. That's why I always say I'm an anarchist because people don't understand the true definition of anarchy is basically to do no harm. I mean, you don't injure somebody by doing something toward their person or their property. And you respect what people, it's like, you don't just get a mad fucking mob of people with fucking pitchforks and torches and say, you son of a bitch, you shouldn't have that. We want, really that's democracy. Granted, we live in a representative republic. People don't understand that either.
They don't understand that, yeah.
You feel like democracy, and it's like, well, really, no, that's not what we have. It's a representative republic. It's like it's not democracy. You don't get it, I think if you did it that way, you would eliminate lobbyists. You would eliminate a lot of corruption, and you would have now. Granted, corruption will probably sneak in some way because.
That'd be a new
even with it being a lottery style deal, you're still going to have the fix is going to be in somewhere. It's
you should write the book, The Lottery 2021. You remember did you read The Lottery from where?
Yeah, by Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you won the lottery, you got fucking stoned. And not in a good way.
I think you could write like The Lottery 2021.
That'd be good.
You could totally the same sort of preface, but with, what you're saying.
That's funny. My boy Tweet that I was locked up with, his name was Raymond Hawthorne, and I used to call him Raymond Nathaniel Hawthorne, and he was from New Orleans, and never got the reference. The police shot him like 20-something times. He's in a wheelchair. I'd always be like, hey, Nathaniel. He'd be like, why you call me Nathaniel? It's like, oh, you'll figure it out. But no, honestly, I don't know. I mean, the way that the system is set up right now, it doesn't work. When you got guys like these fucking assholes that have been there for fucking 34, like look at Joe Biden, 48 fucking years.
Mitch McConnell.
He can't, Mr. Peanut. If you were to put a monocle on him and put him on a Planters peanut can, wouldn't he fit? He'd be Mr. fucking Peanut.
I think he looks like a turtle.
He does. He looks like a turtle too. But he looks like Mr. Peanut and I've always, every time I see a Planters peanut can, I'm like, that's fucking Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, I fully believe
And then I think of that Dana Carvey movie where he's like, turtle. What movie was it? Do you remember that movie?
I can't think of it.
Turtle. Fucking
yeah,
guy.
I mean, term limits, it needs to be nationwide term limits because then without it being nationwide, whichever state enacts it fucks themselves because of the structure of seniority gets the better committee assignments.
Well, and it's oligarchy too.
Mm-hmm. So,
it's not representative of the people because it's all about how much money you have because
and it's all about gerrymandering districts so that like now
they know how to, and that comes down to oligarchy.
Just fucking put a grid, slap a grid over the the state.
Just
or
make
whatever.
it a random pick.
And
it's your civic duty. It's like jury duty.
Right? There you
it's
go.
It's like jury duty. Just a random pick. Here you go. You got picked. You got picked. Doesn't matter what bag. It's
like
there you go. You're going away now for 2 years. You're getting no vacations. None of this bullshit. And I guarantee you, there would be probably about 75% less stupid fucking laws passed.
But you know what?
And they probably would sit down and go over some of them that they have passed and say, "Get this shit out of here. This is garbage."
Yeah, this is stupid.
I
support it. I'm in.
Okay, cool. I don't know. I mean, I've thought about this for a while. It's just like, I mean, it doesn't make any sense that these are supposed to be our representatives when they're not representative of the populace because these are the people that have the money and the finances and the connections to put themselves there. And most of them, like Vonnegut said, he talked about the money river, right? And God bless you, Mr. Rosewater. And I mean, he's like, the people that are on the money river, they are not about to back away from that and let anybody else in. It's all about power. It's not about money for these people. It's about power. I mean, people are the commodity. It's not money. They can make money up whenever they want. We've seen that. They just make it up. I mean, these people aren't worried about, look at Pelosi. I mean, how did Biden make $15 million in the 2 years after he was done serving as vice president with Obama? That guy's not able to go out and make $15 million. They said it was from writing his book and speaking. Speaking, he can't speak. He goes out there and challenges guys to push-up contests. Hey, fat, you want to have a push-up contest? I mean, how's that guy gonna go and do a talk about? How's he even gonna write a book? He can't even write a sentence.
Nobody writes the book though. It's a ghostwriter.
He doesn't even know the Declaration of Independence. All men and women created equal. Because of the thing. The thing. What's the thing?
Now
you were vice president for 8 years. You were in office for 43 years before that as a fucking senator, and you don't know the Declaration of Independence? And now
I am not a Biden supporter. I want to preface that. I'm not a Biden supporter. I do not like Biden.
I don't support any of them.
But you bring up like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. This is funny because I actually didn't intend to start this shit show. It wasn't my intention.
It never is.
It was an honest question.
Nobody wants it.
That I said to all my veteran friends, how much direct education of the Constitution did you get when you joined the military? Not a single one. Zero. Yes. And then several people said, well, you get it in high school. And I said, I can promise you, you've got 50 states and there's 50 different levels of education coming out of, what education you had on the Constitution. And you wrote a blank check to the United States of America to defend the Constitution. And you don't even have to demonstrate you understand what that document says. And so,
You had, in our case, you had Jerry Lorenz for 9th grade civics class. And I'm kicking my camera all over the place now. Sorry. I'm shaky. There. Oh.
Earthquake!
Yeah, well, just a little thing. No, I mean, that's all we had. We had civics in 9th grade.
Yep.
With Mr. Lorenz, and that was it. And that was a good class. It was a good class. I mean, and that kind of got me set on, I mean, I always, I always tried to pursue it, you know, and I got into it in college. I really liked my political science teachers, and I like, you know, I've always just kind of been drawn to it because, I mean, a lot of people say, well, I just don't want anything to do with it. And it's like, well, guess what? This is what decides how life goes. This is like these are the defining factors. These are the things that define our society and the way in which it works. And if you just want to sit back and be ignorant and take that fucking blue pill, okay. I mean, you know how many people I talk to that I can't have these conversations with?
I can't imagine.
The majority of the people I run into, I mean, I have people over and I start trying to talk to them and they just look at me like I'm a fucking they're like, what the fucking, where's my beer? I just want to get drunk and be stupid. You know?
Or we have a population that, like, you know, doesn't want any immigrants, but the immigrants who come to America and become...
I don't understand. You're an immigrant. We're all immigrants.
Well, but also the immigrants who come and become American citizens know more about fucking America than the people raised here, because the tests that they have to take.
Yeah, my co-host Ricardo just got his citizenship after 20 years. Mm-hmm. He's from Mexico City. I need to give him a shout here. What's up, Ricardo? Anyways, the navigator. I met him at Walmart, at the liquor store, right?
Hell yeah.
I go in there and I see his name tag and he's kind of quiet. And I was like, dude, I said, you got a story to tell. And he's like, and I gave him my card. I said, man, I have a podcast and I'd like to hear your story. I said, because I guarantee you've got a story to tell. I don't know you from anywhere. My name's Mike. I was like, but I'd like you to come by and just sit down and have a conversation with me. And he was real standoffish about it. And that's maybe a month or so later. I go in there and he sees me. He's like, I've been listening to your podcast, man. I think I want to come in. I said, great, man. What night, you know? Mm-hmm. And this is a guy that, 20 years. Came from Mexico City, went to the University of Miami, ended up at BYU. If you watch and you hear his story, it's absolutely just, it's phenomenal. His story is one of a kind. And I knew it when I met him, you know, when I saw him. I was like, dude, you know, and you know, I mean, here he's a Hispanic guy working a Walmart liquor store in Cody, Wyoming, right? You can imagine how he's treated.
Sure.
I mean, there are great people here, but there's also
the gross underbelly of Cody will come out.
Right, and you know, and it's through time I've learned that it's also very difficult to pass judgment on those people because it's all learned behavior, and I think that they've never had the opportunity to actually like open their eyes and understand. They're fearful for one thing, right? Fear operates a lot of what we do. Like
for sure. I agree.
And dealing with that with which we don't understand. Now, if you grow up in a household where you've got a father that is a racist and his dad was a racist and they've never, and that's why I tell people around here, I'm like, look, until you've been on the other side of it and you've been the minority, you ain't got shit to stand on and you don't have a fucking thing to say, right? Like my best friend came out here and this was a few years back, and we were working for Kanye and all this shit, and you know, I took him down to the Eagles Club, and we walk in there, right? And I mean, you can imagine, you know, and I'm a member of the Eagles. I love the club. It's great people down there, and I mean, and this is just a testament to how good these people really are, because we walk in, and I mean, it was like the record player just stopped, right? And my boy that's bartending, right? He knows my friend Pook. What's up, Pook? Shout out, brother. And he knows him because we went to a Lakers game together, you know, like a year prior or whatever. So we walk in and I mean, people are just like, you know, and I just kind of let him do his thing because I know this guy. This guy's like, I know how he is, and I'm not even worried about it. Next thing I know, I look over, he's in a table with all these, you know, a bunch of white people around him. And he's like, who's got a pocket knife here? I know one of you guys got a pocket knife, you know? And I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, hey, you know, hollering at my boy. I'm like, hey, watch this. This is going to be good. You know, and this dude hands him a pocket knife. He pulls it out. He opens it up. And he's like, okay, so which one of you motherfuckers am I going to stab here at this table? And they're going to bleed green. And everybody kind of looks around and like, well, nobody. He's like, you get my point. You know, and right there, table full of friends. You know, everybody's like, I mean, people are so like standoffish and weird. And then, I mean, he proceeds to make like best friends with the old cowboy, Uncle Ralph, rest in peace, at the end of the bar. He was the old cowboy, gruff, really nice guy. But I mean, he called him his nephew. Like when Uncle Ralph died, like, I mean, Uncle Ralph's family called Josh in Los Angeles because they knew how much their relationship meant to their, you know, to Ralph. And I mean, there was one night in there where somebody called, they called my friend by the N-word. Now, I didn't hear it. Thankfully, I didn't hear it. But Ralph heard it. Apparently, he pulled the guy out in the hallway and he said, "You ever speak about my nephew like that again, I'm going to take you on the parking lot. I'm going to fucking shoot you in the head." And I mean, you know, he became the first African-American member of the Cody Eagles Area 8.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. He went through I mean, to me, that gives me, it gave me a lot of the hope in the potential that people do have if they're put in a situation where they've got to open up their mind a little bit and gain some understanding. When you don't have understanding of circumstances and in different people and stuff, when you don't reach across the fence and shake the hand of your neighbor because you're scared about the way they look, or I mean, I run into that all the time. People look at me and they think, "Oh God, look at that fucking guy, long hair, fucking tattooed, fucking," you know. I mean, and it's like they don't know me, right? I mean,
have you heard the movement? And I'm not going to get the name of it right, but it's something where it's like open tables, and it is break bread with people that are not your people.
Yeah.
And you invite people into your home.
Yeah. I love it.
Different culture, different experience, different life, and have this, meal together.
Right.
And I can't, there's like this, I forget what it's called, but it is just this movement where people.
I'm all about it.
I love it. And
yeah, no, I'm totally all about that.
Where I live.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great thing, you know. And I mean, in the prison scenario, like as a white dude, you're not supposed to eat with a black dude or a Hispanic guy, you know. And every Friday, Josh and I would have Burrito Friday, you know, and I'd have new white guys come in the unit, and I was the rep in the unit, so I was pretty much in charge. And I mean, I'd have guys come up to me on Fridays, and they'd be like, "Dude, what are you doing? You ain't supposed to be eating with him." I'd be like, "You want to sit down and have a fucking burrito with us today, or you want to fucking sit here and play this fucking shit?" I'm like, "You're in my fucking unit, sit down and fucking join us." Or, you know, and I mean, 9 times out of 10, dude sits down, has a burrito with a black man, realizes, hey, maybe my fucking train of thought's been fucked up for a while here, man. Maybe, you know, and I mean, and it's funny as hell. I mean, I fly out there all the time. We hang out and shit. And I mean, we go out places, and I mean, we've had crazy experiences, you know, and we're two guys. We should have never met one another. There's no way. I should know that. I mean, you know, and I was going out there before COVID. I was going out there, you know, 10, 15 times a year. He'd fly out here and hang. I mean, this whole thing kind of threw you know,
monkey wrench. It's been awful.
Yeah, it did. And we still talk, and, you know, I mean, I'm hoping to get him out here soon. I don't want to go to LA right now. Just because I don't know. The city's just, I mean, it was fine before, but now I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to be fearful. I'm not scared or anything like that, but I definitely don't want to, you know. I mean, I got a friend that, you know, has some dispensaries out there, and they got all fucked up during the riots when they first hit. And, you know, I'm like, dude, I'm not hauling my 42-foot long ass with my fucking job trailer out there to park behind your dispensary down at Echo Park and come out and have all my shit fucking stolen from. Yeah, you know. I mean, there were armed gunmen that came into those places and shot the fucking places up, you know. It's like, I mean, and, you know, also I think about things differently at this point in time, too. I mean, being a single father, it's like I can't put myself into any kind of a risky position that's going to do something to, you know, leave my son alienated. Yeah, he's got nobody else. It's just me and him. So I can't go out and do. I mean, I used to make all kinds of risky choices, and look where that got me. But, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things that I take pause at now. That's like, maybe that's not the best idea. And I like where we're at. I mean, really being in Coyote, Wyoming, I mean, I don't go out. I don't have any friends to speak of, maybe a couple.
I have two friends.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how
I've
I'm
got my
too.
two.
Yeah, two,
I've got.
three,
I
two,
grew up a
three
military
guys.
kid. I am real good at cutting and running.
Yeah.
Oh, bye. And these two
Yeah,
women, yeah,
I try not to
these
get
two women
even
don't.
to the point where it's a cut situation. It's just like, nope.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't know friendship like this was possible, so I can get it. But yeah, it's those. I've got two friends, and then I have acquaintances.
Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, for me personally, a good time for me on a Friday night anymore was sitting out in my shop or sitting in here in my studio and writing or tattooing them myself. I mean,
Yeah, like
drawing tattoos or
tattoo
whatever.
yourself, huh?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've done. Yeah, yeah. I don't even know how many. I'm running out of real estate.
Yeah, easily reachable real estate.
Yeah, and I've learned how to even go left-handed and shit. I mean, it's like, but yeah, now both my legs are about covered too. I'm like, okay, well, when are we going to stop this? I'm not doing the neck or face though. That's my. It's like, nope. Until I do.
So you do.
It's funny how we put these like this is an touchable. Like it's okay to tattoo yourself here, and here, but don't
I think it's age. I think it's age bound. I think we're in that age bracket where it's age bound because like young people tattoo their faces and their necks. Like my daughter and I, when my daughter graduated college, so we read this book when she was a little girl. Guess How Much I Love You, and the phrase in it was like, I love you to the stars and back. I love you to the trees and back. I love it to the moon and back. So that the moon and back, I love you to the moon and back became our thing. So when she graduated college and I went down for her graduation, we got sort of matching moon tattoos. I got one here, and she got a tattoo on the back of her neck. Her very first tattoo. I mean, it was under her hair. She's got really long hair, but it's still on her neck. So I was like, you sure? And she's like, yeah, why wouldn't I? And I kind of, in that moment, I chuckled because she was like 23, I think, when she graduated college. And it was like, oh, this is a generational thing. Like her very first tattoo is on her fucking neck. And I'm like, oh, don't tattoo your neck.
But it's funny how we put a stigma on that. Like, what's it matter?
Yeah.
I mean, especially, if you got long hair. I mean, my hair is halfway down my back. I mean, but I've told myself nothing. I mean, I think I've got like
all my
I've got right here, and then and then my whole chest is blasted out. But I won't go up above here for some reason. And I think maybe it's because my mom has told me, she's like, Mike, just please, because I always, I was never going to do my hands, and I did.
Yeah.
But who cares?
It's really,
I mean, we're walking around in a car. All it is a car that we're walking around in. I mean, the car is going to go away at some point in time. Who gives a shit? And I've come to the conclusion and the realization that I will never have a regular job. I'm never going to go get hired by somebody, and I've been offered crazy fucking jobs. I mean, with exorbitant amount of money, but it's like, nah. People are like, wait, what, you're turning that down? It's like, yeah, because I'm not moving to fucking New York City, man. It's like, I'm not going to do it. It's like, I like being where I'm at. I like being 30 seconds away from just solitude with nothing but me and dirt and,
I get it.
And I mean, it's like
if you had asked me 23 years ago when I moved to Alaska if I'd still be in Alaska now, I'd been like, fuck no.
Now, how did you end up there?
So my first husband. No, it's fine. My first husband, he worked in the oil field, and we barely got by in Cody. And Alaska needed help, and he straight up came up and said, I'm going to make myself indispensable. And good man, we weren't the right people for each other, but he worked hard to support his family. And that's exactly what he did. He came up here. He wasn't in a position that typically would transfer people. And he came up for about 6 weeks and busted his ass. And so it turned out that we were able to move up here and tripled our income. And
there's a lot of
when we lived in Wyoming, if we had $20, after all the bills were paid and groceries bought, it was like, fuck yeah, we get date night.
Back when $20 would get you something.
Yeah. And so then we came up here, and of course then it was kind of funny. We were married 12-ish years or so, 11 years, something like that. And then got divorced, co-parented our daughter, and I cracked up because he now lives in Texas. He stayed until she graduated high school.
No, I don't mean to. Is that Scott?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Scott Shire.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
Did you know him?
Yeah, and I thought that he was your daughter's father. I just wasn't sure, and I'm not trying to.
No. I'm an open book. I don't give a shit. And so,
I know you said that. I just
Yeah.
I always.
He's a great man. He's remarried. He's got 2 other little girls, and it was funny. Our daughter got married this summer, and so I hadn't seen him since we dropped her off at college in Texas. We moved her into her dorm room. We co-parented really, really well, and dropped her off into her dorm room 7 years ago. And it was funny. We're walking out of her dorm, and I was like, "Well, here's where we find out how well we did." It's like, here we go.
Yeah, that's a tough thing too. I mean,
dogs.
It's like I don't know. I've had the conversations with my boy about college and that, and I mean, if he
college is over,
he doesn't have to go to college.
Yeah, no,
he doesn't have to. I mean,
my kids are 15 years apart, and they're getting 2 different messages about college.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, we live in a world now that, I mean, and you look at the most successful people in history. I mean, Einstein, dropout. Elon Musk, dropout. I mean, so many. I mean, it's like
Microsoft guy, Bill Gates, dropout.
Bill Gates, yeah.
Facebook,
it's like, do you have a vision? Do you have a vision? Are you willing to fail? Are you willing to flop and fall on your face? Are you willing to embarrass yourself? Are you willing to step out of societal norms and do something that you believe in, and do something that you, people are called crazy for doing it. I mean, I've been called crazy for what I'm doing with this podcast and shit, and I mean, because I've stepped away. I mean, I came out with nothing and started a pretty good sized paint company. And I came to the point where I was like, this is not making me happy.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not fulfilled with this. And I don't care about the money. I don't care. I mean, it's like, I'm not doing something that I love to do. And a guy I didn't even know. I don't even know how Charlie and I became friends on Facebook. Charlie, if you're out there, Caperton, buddy, Mr. Caperton, we got to catch up. But he hit me up a couple of times. He was like, Mike, he's like, the things that you put out on social media and stuff, he's like, they're, I really enjoy reading the things that you write. And, he said, you really should think about starting a podcast. And at first I was like, I'm like, how did you and I even meet? He's
right.
He's from like Ohio, and, he was in the Navy, and just a great dude. And we're trying to figure out how we even became friends. We can't even trace it back, and I need to get in touch with him because I haven't in a long time. But because of that guy, because of him telling me that, I went and bought all the equipment that I have in here, and I put this, I decided to rip up the flooring and put up a wall and just build things. I mean, and were it not for COVID and somebody pushing me in that direction, I mean, I always knew that there were different things that I wanted to do, and that I wasn't happy, but I didn't know how to go about it.
Sure.
I was scared. I was terrified of doing it. It's terrifying to jump off the ledge and and immerse yourself into a place that you're unfamiliar with, because familiarity, I mean, well, it breeds complacency, first of all. I mean, in doing something that you're scared of, it's difficult to do, especially at 44, 45 years old. It's like, but I just decided I don't care if I embarrass myself.
There's the benefit of being in our 40s where our give-a-fucks are just like,
yeah, I spent them all. Don't have any more left.
Those have been cashed in.
I don't care. I'll embarrass myself, and I do it all the time.
Yep,
I do it.
I totally understand that.
I mean, that's why most of the time, like I said, I don't respond to anything that I put out there. I don't go back and rewatch my podcast. I don't, because I don't care. I mean, what's being put out there between you and I right now, it's out there. Am I going to go back and argue it with somebody?
No.
And if anybody wants to argue about it, well, have fun. Argue
Yeah.
amongst yourselves. I said what I gotta say. I mean, it's like, why?
It's been a
I'm
great
not gonna sit there and defend myself and like get in a pissing match on fucking Bookface.
Yeah.
I mean, my thought on it is if I can open up somebody's mind, open up somebody's eyes to it, and I'm not saying that I'm definitely not even an authority on much of anything, except just trying to do better.
Yeah.
Trying to learn something new every day. That's it. It's like I try to learn something.
I think that speaks volumes and carries a lot of.
Well, and you get to that point. You get to that point in life where you realize. I mean, until you get to that point where you realize you don't learn. Unless you jump off, you don't learn anything.
Right,
and you get to the point where you realize that you don't know anything.
Like
you realize
teenager,
you don't know shit.
Everything. Teenager, you're like, your parents are stupid.
Yeah.
I'm smarter than the world, and then
I got this.
Yeah, and you get this cockiness that you kind of need as you get thrown out into the world. You need the little bit of cockiness, the can do, whatever. And then you're like, fuck me, I don't know shit.
Right, you get slapped down, and that's what I always tell people is like the moment
you're like, okay, and then you hit your 30s, and you're like, okay, there's still got a lot to learn. We're in our 40s. It's like, okay, I know some shit. I got some experience under my belt. I still got more to learn. I mean, I love getting older. I've been like my 40. You couldn't pay me to be 20 again. And could not pay me to be 20 again. And like, I am more confident. I mean, like, I wouldn't change it. I'm happy being 44, almost 45. And who knows what the 50s, 60s, and 70s will bring if I'm lucky enough to see them.
And that's the thing. We don't know from day to day.
Yep.
We don't know. I mean, we all, and I was having this discussion with a good buddy of mine the other day about planning for the future. And I asked him, I said, why? Why are you planning for the future? I said, today is what you have. Right now is what you have. I said, as we are speaking, right now is passing us by. And you're talking about what's to come down the road. It's like, you don't know that tomorrow's going to be, you don't know that within an hour, you don't know if you go to make a milk run to Walmart that you're going to come home from that.
2 in the morning. Yeah,
you don't know.
Back. For sure.
Everybody's got a card to punch. And, many times it's punched by situations and circumstances that are beyond your control. And so to sit there and live your life based on this whole concept of, I got to go to college and get this degree, and it's always something out in the future that people are looking at. It's always like, well, if I can get to this point, then I'll be happy. Well, and then they get to that point, and it's like it's always chasing these things that are out in front of them instead of realizing that there's something that I can do right now that's going to, give me self-worth, merit. It's going to make me, happy and content, and then I'm okay with it. I mean, this whole idea of like, you got to chase the retirement and you got to invest and this and that. Really? You don't know. You don't know when you go in for that doctor's appointment that you're not going to hear that you got 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be macabre to say that, but you know what? It fucking happens to people every fucking day.
Yep.
Like my co-host Ricardo, he went in, his eyeball turned bright red. He goes in, he's a financial team leader in Baltimore, Maryland. He's making lots of money. Life is great, blah, blah, blah. Goes in to see the optometrist, says, you need to go see a neurologist. Goes to the neurologist, and they find out that he's got this growth in his brain that's been metastasizing since he was a kid. And they go in they make a plan, a treatment plan to go in like 6 times, right? To go in school and take this thing out. Well, they get in there and they realize this fucking thing is huge and like it's got to come out, like now. They talk to his wife. His wife gives him the okay because really there was no choice. They pull this fucking thing out of his head. They put him in an induced coma. He comes out at 31 years old and he doesn't remember anything. Nothing about his college education. Yep. Doesn't know who his wife is, doesn't know who his kids are, doesn't know where his job's at, nothing. He got a reset. Over. He got a reset. And I knew there was something about him when I met him. That there was a story there. And I mean, talk about and I've told him, I was like, dude, and it's a crazy story. I mean, think about that at 31 years old, if you were to just fucking gone. Everything that you fucking knew up to that point in life is gone.
Or thought you knew.
And you're 31 years old. And he said he went back into work after he got out of the coma, and he goes back in. He said his team's sitting there waiting for him. Like, he doesn't know a single one of them. He doesn't know he doesn't know anything about his education. I mean, the guy went to college and, for finance and all this. And and now he works at the Walmart liquor store, and he's happier than he's ever been in his life. And he said he got a new lease on life. He said, I was an asshole. I was more worried about money and status and this and that and the other thing. He said, now I'm happy.
Well, money was the problem.
Yeah, he said, he goes, they told me that I lost probably 10 years off my life because of the brain injury. He goes, but I said, but think about it this way, man. I said, but look at what you gained,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd rather have a shorter,
he gained this
life than long and.
Yeah, I mean, and he became a more complete person, a happier person, with less. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you look back on the times that you think about in life that you really like. You look back upon with fondness, and they're always the most difficult times. They're always the hard, the times when you didn't have two nickels to rub together, the times when you were living in a tent in the fucking forest, the times when you didn't have a roof over your head, the times when you couldn't put gas in your car, the times when everything was going fucking wrong. And the people that stood by you in those times, and the people you could count on, and how you got through it. I mean, you look at those times, and it's like, you never look back and go, that shit was just really great back then, guy. You take that shit for advantage. You just like, you don't think about those things. It's like always the difficult times and those that stood by you through those times that mean the most. And that's why when you go out, I think that's what you have. You have the people that you loved and the people that love you and the memories of that when you go out the door of this life, and that's all you got. And that's why I don't understand people just chasing this money and being greedy and these status symbols and driving around in Lamborghinis. And
I mean, I've had money. I've not had Lamborghini money, but
no, I haven't either.
I've had money, and you know what? I'm happier without it. My bills are paid.
It's a necessity. It's something.
Yeah, I've got a roof over my head. I can feed my kids. Well, I only have to feed one now because the other one's self-sufficient.
Yeah, well, just wait. He said he's 11, right? He's going to be eating way more here in the next few years.
He's already started. He's like this tall. It's very strange. He's like, we did a winter camping trip 2 weeks ago, and we had to haul shit. We rented one of the Forest Service cabins, and it was bitter ass cold. It was like 15 degrees till Thursday, and then it dropped to negative 15 on Friday.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'd had this reservation for 6 months, and it was just it was fascinating to I'm not a man. I've never raised a man, and watching my son start to step into manhood. He's almost 12. And like, we had to put in some manual labor to haul all this shit to the cabin. And I had to bring extra firewood because it was so fucking cold. And he didn't whine. He didn't complain, and it's just like, and he busted his ass. He doesn't even weigh 90 pounds yet. He's just skin and bones. But like,
he's at that goofy age.
Oh God, he's so gangly. His
big
hands
feet,
and feet are
stumbling
bigger.
around.
His hands and feet are bigger than mine. Yep. But like, it was interesting because his sister at that age would have been complaining about the whole situation.
Right.
But he was like wanting to help his mother, and wanting to make sure that mom was taken care of. And he, it was just like, I kind of just was like, oh, my baby's turning into a man and I'm not ready for it. But
you should be proud of that too, because that's a reflection on how you've raised him.
Well, thank you.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's reflective of, because I've seen kids at that age. I've seen boys at that age that you just want to slap the piss out of them because.
I mean, sometimes I want to slap the piss out of them. But. Well,
sure. I mean, you're going to have that. But I mean, I'm the same way with my son. But I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, when I'm like, dude, I mean, he'll help out with anything, and
Well, even like, cause I'm a weird camper, and I love to camp, and I do crazy food. Like, there's no like.
You're the crazy camp food person.
Yeah,
the one that's making like fucking chicken risotto and shit out there.
Yeah, I make cinnamon rolls and pizza and like blueberry cobbler.
I'm out there like, here's your hot dog and here's your stick.
Nope. So we at one point he was
here's
like
a marshmallow.
Yeah. He's like, Mom, is there anything you need help with? Because he's like, he literally goes, because you're literally working like a slave to make sure that we have a nice meal. I was like, oh, thank you, Pumpkin. I'm good. This is what I enjoy doing. But yeah, it was funny. And he's, he's at that age where he kind of gets adult jokes, but not quite. And it's fun.
Yeah, and it gets interesting.
Yeah.
I can tell you that, but it's fun. I don't know. I mean, I know every time I got to go in and talk to teachers and whatever, they're like, "Your son's he's more mature than any of these." It's like, well, fuck, he's had to grow up with me. I mean,
Well, my son got in trouble for trying to summon demons on the playground.
Someone what?
Summon demons.
Oh, Jesus.
I was like,
I'd take that care. One. I don't think the law can write a citation on that one.
Yeah, I was like, I don't care if he is trying to summon demons. Like,
yeah. Did you see one?
Yeah, I was like, are you calling parents if they have a prayer circle? No? Okay, then don't fucking call me.
Did he bring one to class? I mean, did he have it in his locker?
And I'm like, look, if he fucking summons demons, that's cool as shit.
Yeah. I want to be there. Call me when he does it again.
And I told my son,
I want to talk to that motherfucker.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I know what you're doing. Okay? I know what you're doing. Like, you're just stirring the pot to stir the pot. And I'll support you. But at the same time, recognize that when you stir the pot, sometimes it boils over.
Yeah. It splashes back on you.
And you better be prepared. But you're not doing anything wrong.
Like a young Joseph Smith.
Yeah. And so, God, no.
Joseph Smith saw the seeing stones. Dum, 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 dum. He's out there with a hat, looking in a hat.
He's definitely his parents' child because his dad's.
That's funny as hell.
He's
summoning demons.
Yeah.
How could they look at you with a straight face and actually say that to you? Well, we had to call you in today because your son was out there during recess and he was summoning the demons.
Well, and he challenged the art teacher. He challenged the art teacher. So he comes home with this artwork of pentagrams, and I was like, I said, okay. I said, well, do you know what this stands? Do you know what this means? He's like, oh yeah, they're pentagrams. And he has this whole, and I said, okay. And I said, well, why are you drawing these? He's like, well, he goes, the art teacher was having us draw shapes and it included crosses. And I didn't want to draw crosses. So I also drew pentagrams. And I said, okay. And he goes, the teacher came over and was like, why are you drawing these? And he was like, well, I drew crosses. So now I'm going to draw these. And I was like, God damn it, child.
So this is art class, isn't it, teacher?
Yeah, and so I laughed because I'm like, well, you're not wrong. And he didn't get in trouble by the art teacher because she knew she had no leg to stand on.
Oh, that's funny. That's
I was just like, oh, God, you're 11. I'm fucked when you're 15. I can already tell.
Oh, yeah, you're going to have a good time with him. You're going to have a good time with him.
He's a smart kiddo. And
that's hilarious. I heard he drew crosses.
If I have to draw crosses, I'm going to draw pentagrams too. Equal opportunity, lady.
Yeah. 50-50.
Yeah.
The world of duality. If we're going to have crosses, if we're going to have Jesus, we're going to have Satan. We're going to have God, we're going to have the devil.
I think I already know that if there's an afterlife, mine is in hell, and it is going to be a much cooler. It's
going to be way more fun.
It's going to be way more fun.
Can you imagine heaven as they portray it?
No.
Hard pass. You're up there on a cloud with a lyre thing with all your fucking relatives.
Oh, God.
Come on. You don't want to be.
The relatives I want to hang out with are in hell.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who the comedian was that made this. I'm not taking credit for this, but he's talking about like, okay, you're married and say your wife dies 10 years before you. And you're out there, an old man, you got some money, you're having a good time, you're partying it up, you're getting some strange, you just, you're having a great time. You've been bitched at your whole life by this woman. She's finally gone. you've got your freedom back, and then you fucking die, and that's where you end up, is on a cloud with her, you know? And you're like, fuck. I mean,
yeah. The
gotta,
flip side is the woman being with some
and then to sit there and say, oh, they're in a better place, or they're looking down upon us, and you look like, what? They're looking at
yeah.
I mean, what is this? What is this nonsense where you think that they're looking down upon you from a better place? Really?
Her parents don't look down on me.
Up where? What am I fucking looking at? I see some chemtrails and you know the stars and I mean, you know the whole perception of you know what happens. You know that's what's so funny is the motivating factor of so much that we do is based upon the not knowing and the fear of what happens when we die, and we're so scared of that we fucking forget to live, you know. And I mean, to me, that's just it's really sad. I mean, people spend their lives working jobs that they fucking hate. They spend their lives doing things that they can't fucking stand. They spend their lives with somebody that they fucking can't stand. I mean, the idea of marriage is just absolutely fucking ridiculous. You know, that you're going to spend your whole life with this person. And then the fact that to go through the marriage, I mean, look at how much, I mean, the first time I almost got married, which was stupid. I mean, the amount of money that was going to be spent on that was just, I mean, I'm 22 years old. It's like, what the fuck am I, why?
I got married at 18.
Because this is, yeah, well, that's way too fucking young. I don't think there was a good time to do it at all.
I mean, we gave it the college.
I waited till I was 40. I got married at 40. It lasted until I was 42. 2 years, and that was it. And it was like, this is, But I mean, at that age, at 22, you know, and I mean, it was 2 weeks from the wedding date. I mean, the vacations were out, and all the fucking
and that's hard.
I drove my fucking my future mother-in-law drove her nuts because I just got Hawaiian shirts and fucking shorts and Vans for all me and my guys, right?
Oh yeah.
And they were so pissed because there's so much money spent on the rehearsal dinner and the fucking goofy tent and all the fucking shit and the fucking food and all this fucking shit. You know, it's just like, what the fuck? It's like, and that's why when I got married, we got married on the side of a fucking mountain. The bartender up at fucking Arapahoe Basin signed the marriage certificate. And Jared Whitney fucking oversaw the ceremony.
Oh, hell yeah, Jared!
Yeah. I mean, he was up there. I mean, you know, we was up on our snowboards, you know, and it was, you know, I mean, it's so stupid. I mean, people go into debt over this shit. It's like, if you love somebody, you want to be with somebody, why can't you just be with them? Why do you have to have the state's certification? And then when it comes time for the divorce, then it's like, geez, here we fucking go. With my ex-wife called, she's like, well, I need a statement of your financials and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no. Like, no. I'm like, it costs $30 in Fair Play fucking Colorado to get a marriage certificate. I'm like, there's no reason why, I mean, and I never gave her any more financial information anyways. I mean, I was already 40 years old. I was like, this is my business, my company, my shit, my stuff. Yeah. Like, it's, you know, I mean, maybe that's selfish, but, you know, I mean.
No.
I didn't want any of her information. I didn't want any of her. I mean, I was like, I don't give a shit. Whatever you got's yours. I don't, you know. Just the whole idea that you have to have that certification from the state to actually be like with somebody is, and then the idea of being with the same person forever, it's not gonna work out.
It's not.
For some people, it does.
Sure.
But you got to look at it like, and I've learned that. I mean, if you're in a relationship with somebody, it's pretty much you've got to be like on the same plane, right? Like, because negative, it's like math, right? I mean, if you multiply a negative and a positive number together, you're always going to end up with a negative number. It's a consistent. It you know. So I mean, when you sit there and you get in a relationship and you go, well, I can change this person. As soon as that fucking comes through your mind, it's like that's when you fucking got turning. You got to fucking run the fuck away.
Accept people where they're at.
You got to run away because you ain't going to change anybody. You're not. There's no way. Nope. You're going to get, you know, the one thing about arguing with idiots is they will beat your ass and they will drag you right down to their fucking level.
And the thing about it is like people change. You're not going to change them. They'll change themselves.
Yeah.
And because people change. People grow.
Certainly. And typically it's after you walk away from them.
Yeah. And so like relationships, you accept people where they're at. but then also have to accept the future unknown them.
Right.
That's
well, and as soon as you find yourself getting drawn down into the quagmire,
negativity, then
you gotta
it's
walk.
You gotta go away. But
And that's always been my problem is that I always think, I can make this better. I can change. It's like, no, you can't, dummy. You can't change it. You cannot change a negative person. I mean, and that's what's so tough about it. Because I mean, unless you meet somebody that's right there.
There can be compromise, or there has to be compromise.
And I mean, you've got jealousy issues, and you've got people that have confidence and self-esteem issues and shit like that. And I mean, that's the big thing is people want to change you to bring them down to, and you're trying to change somebody and bring them to where you think it's just like fuck this. This is dumb. Yeah. I was like, well, let's just have a beer and call it good.
Yeah.
Wrap it up.
On that note.
Yeah.
This lady has pushed out.
This has been 3 hours and 40 minutes. Yeah. This is a long conversation.
This lady has pushed out 2 kids, and her bladder is just about ready to explode.
I'm about the same way,
middle-aged pollen bladder.
Oh, God. I was laughing about that watching Biden walk the other day. I was like, dude, don't tell me that dude ain't wearing fucking Depends. He's all fucking walking around like this. It's like his right leg. I was like, he's trying to shake a fart out of that diaper or something.
Oh my God, I have had such a good chat tonight. This is wonderful. I really appreciate
it's been great.
the invitation.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we got to do this, and we should make a habit of it.
For sure. Yeah, I would absolutely come back on if you were willing to have me.
Of course. No, it's a great conversation. I think we've got other places to go too. I mean,
for sure.
Anyway, it was awesome talking to you, and glad we got the chance to do this. Yeah, salud from my big sip. This is my big adult sippy cup. This is my old man bladder.
Yeah, I don't have that. Open book.
Your balls hanging down to my knees.
Yes, I can talk about old man balls on the next conversation.
Yeah, okay. Sure, let's go there.
On that note.
There's no topic that's unapproachable here on the Mike Files. Well, with that in mind, Summer Lazenby, great to have you on.
Thank you.
Awesome catching up with you, and let's do it again.
For sure.
All right.
Take care.
You do the same. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If I can shut this off.
Yeah, right?
I don't even know how.